And what is up? Welcome back. It's Friday night. And you're here at the Average Boys Podcast. It's your boy Crispy, and I am here joined by my good friend Sal Seguda. Sal, what is up, my dude? How are you doing?
What's up, guys? I'm excited. I think we got a lot to
Yeah,
talk about today. It's gonna be. I'm looking forward to it.
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Shout out to anybody that's out there. I know we just started. It's gonna be fast. It's gonna be quick. Of course, Brian's not here today. He's got some stuff that he's dealing with his family that he says is gonna be out. But of course, he sends his regards and his love, and he says he loves everybody and he hopes everybody's doing good. He hopes you got that good badass drink in your hand and you're ready to chill out and talk nerd stuff with us. So thank you guys for joining us tonight on the show. We do appreciate every one of you. Guys, if you can, like, share, subscribe the podcast. And if you can, share this live video on your friends list. Let people know what's up. So anybody out there that's chilling out, wanting to do nerd shit and is bored at home can join us. What's up, Rob? How you doing, my dude? I hope you're doing great, my bro. Sal, how's it been going, man? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a minute. How's it been?
It's been going pretty good. Work's been a little. It's going, and we're getting ready to open up the food truck. So
Sweet, sweet.
we're
Tell us about your food truck, man. Tell us what's going on.
we used to do it back in Colorado about 10 years ago. We did a barbecue.
Oof.
So
Oof.
we got down and decided, you know what, we'd like to throw our hat in the ring and you know give some people some good food, and something's got to pay for my comic habit, so
Oh
why
yeah,
not
no kidding,
barbecue?
man. It's got it with the collecting and shit like that with all our pools. What
Yeah,
do you guys
yeah,
have planned for it? What are you guys going to do that's going to be, I mean, in the sense of being an entrepreneur and fulfilling that destiny of wanting to open up your own spot, kitchen, soup kitchen, taco truck, or whatever it might be. Like, what do you feel will separate you from the rest? Because I mean, I've noticed that in the last like maybe 2 years, that barbecue, like that essence has become extremely popular down here in the valley. Most gentlemen kind of pride themselves in having their black belts in the on the grill. And I think with like the growth of a lot of these pitmaster television shows and YouTube channels and things like that, like it's kind of giving the people the opportunity to kind of like get themselves out there as cooks or uh, chef entrepreneurs or just anything in general when it comes to being more connoisseurs of the sport or the task.
you have a lot more information out there. Like when we did it, I mean, it, the one thing I told everybody when we were in Colorado is here in the valley we grew up barbecuing, and it was something we always associated with family, um good times, and stuff with friends,
Mhm.
so it was always like we used to say, prender el bote. So that's what you did. Little did you realize, though, you were, at least for me, I was learning these skills that would later on pay off, to where some people were like, we've never, like 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 the side skirt. I mean, that used to be meat, they used to throw away.
Yeah,
Now we're paying 8, 9 bucks a pound for it, and it's considered steak. You go
that's
up to
crazy.
Colorado and they have, I mean, now they kind of do, but they don't cook, they don't barbecue the way we do, but
Yeah, I mean it's a different flavor, different ingredients, just different vibe in general. That's why you go
yeah,
to like we go to HEB, and of course like I'm a very casual dude when it comes to barbecuing. Like I like to cook it, but like I'm very specific on how I like my flavors. So I'll tell people to the day I die that McDonald's has the best barbecue sauce, which is probably the worst barbecue sauce on the planet. Um, but it's a badass flavor. So you go to Walmart or HEB and you go to the barbecue section, and the barbecue sauces, there's just so many different flavors. It's kind of overwhelming sometimes where you're just like, hey dude, I just want barbecue sauce, what the fuck, like leave me alone. But
yeah.
yeah, like now it's like finding the right type of shampoo. Like it used to just be shampoo. Like nowadays there's like a million different bottles or toothpaste.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different stuff out there. Like today I was reading on there's this guy named Daniel Vaughn. He travels Texas
Mhm.
sampling barbecue, and letting us know. He posted today a place, I think it's in Dallas, if I'm correct, I could be wrong, but
It sounds like a great job already, man. I ain't gonna lie.
it's an Egyptian barbecue restaurant.
Egyptian
So
barbecue restaurant?
yeah, so it's a gentleman from Egypt, if I'm correct,
Uh-huh.
but all the spices and stuff, are from there, but he uses them to barbecue. So it's like a totally different flavor than just, you know, like what we do here, and there's a lot. I mean, you would think everybody does the same thing, but no, there's a lot of creativity that a lot of people have gone into it. I'm a
Okay.
little more traditional, but there's a lot of, like, now they're putting brisket and ramen and the ramen
Yeah,
soups.
I've seen that. Yeah, and they're making a braria ramen soup and like just all this crazy stuff. All the switching around and changing the things is so crazy nowadays to me.
Yeah, and so there's so much fusion out there,
Mhm.
and you would at first be like, that doesn't
That doesn't make
sound like it.
sense or it doesn't yeah, it doesn't correlate.
Yeah, but once you put it, once you start to eat it, you're like, holy shit,
Shit,
this
this works.
this was
Pineapple on
good.
pizza kind of moment, right?
Yeah.
So I
So
have to ask you because it's always intrigued me when it comes to like uh situations like yourself where you've created this entrepreneur moment for yourself in life and pushing on that. What was the hardest part or what is the hardest part about starting like a food truck? Because I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, I love food trucks. We have conventions down here that we go to that sometimes dudes pop up and they have like like you said, like a barbecue food truck, and you're there looking for comic books or you're there looking for collectibles, and this guy pops off and says, "Hey, you want a cup of barbecue?" And I'm like, well, "What the fuck does that mean?" And you end up eating this great food instead of it just being like just snacks or paletera food or whatever. But what what's the hardest part of it so far? Is it like creating the truck or getting the licensing or
the hard part is one, well, I mean, not to sound cliche, but it's to actually get started.
oh yeah.
But the other hard part is, you know, a lot of people will really try to keep you from doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're
'Cause-
talking about like that crab mentality, people holding you down.
yeah, because they're like, dude, everybody, there's already there's already 5 or 10 people doing barbecue. What do you want to do barbecue? You're gonna fail. Everyone else is already doing it. Well, yeah, but they don't do it the way I do.
Yeah,
Not to say it's gonna succeed, but I mean, if you don't get started, you're never gonna know.
yeah. You're never gonna know. That's a good
You know,
point.
and
That's a really really good point.
and for me, because you do hear a lot of the naysayers, like, you can't do it, you're not gonna do it, you don't, but if you really want to do it, you will. And second, for me, it was family. As odd
Okay,
as it sounds, my forethought, and this is something I'll tell anybody. Um, for me, and it was, I want to leave something behind for my kids.
good point, man.
Barbecue,
The legacy,
bar, yeah, barbecue might not sound like something fancy, but you know what?
but it
If
could.
I can, if I can build it, my kids will never have to work for someone else.
That's so fucking cool. That
You
is such
know,
a. I mean, yeah. In a way, there is that concept that it's like a cliche thing that people always say, like, "Oh, I want to do this," but it's like it's very admirable, though. It's admirable because you're almost laying the groundwork for this opportunity that isn't going to flourish really fast. It may jump in popularity and people will like it, and you can take from that opportunity very well yourself. But like 15, 20 years down the road, when your kids have carried it on or their grandkids have carried it on, and it becomes like such a bigger thing, they're gonna be able to contribute to the fruits of your labor. They're gonna be able to really take advantage of the fruits that you've created. And that's such an admirable thing for people to be able to lay the path for upcoming family members and stuff. I commend you, man. That's pretty cool.
yeah, because I tell my wife, I'm not gonna be here. I may be here 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but the one thing I don't ever want my kids or my wife or anybody to ever worry about is, are we gonna have money next week?
Yeah. You're
So
trying to
if
leave
I,
something behind that you know they're taken care of.
yeah, so if I do what I'm supposed to, if I can do what I feel is my potential to do, then that's what I'm going to do, you know?
The grind, brother. The grind. The
Yes,
grind.
and trust me, me and Mel, there's been days where she's been kind of like, I got you, but yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
but for
you,
yeah, I mean it's a hard thing, man. None of this stuff ever goes easy. None of it's ever easy. But
no, but
the more you put work into it, the more it comes back. Me myself, like I started this podcast like 2, 3 years ago, and I've maintained and over 1,000 downloads. A bunch of great people that I've had the opportunity to meet, actors, peoples, like just everybody that I've come across has been so amazing, and I feel blessed to be able to do this every Friday night and jump in and yeah, like I mean, I've always noticed that when it comes to doing something that's kind of like this kind of moment where you want to be a either like an entertainer or an entrepreneur. I've noticed that the culture that we live in, it's very hard to make it work unless you're part of like a niche crowd where that becomes very popular very fast. But then usually those kind of people like they get into the business, but they get into it for like a wrong reason, and their businesses don't stay open for too long. Like it's
y-
almost like the passion part for those people isn't there, but the money's there for them to be able to start a business. But the people that are passionate about it, that want to do it, don't have the money to start it. Like I've always noticed this weird like pattern here in
yeah,
the valley when it comes to shit like that. And but I've
it
noticed too, like in the valley, like the harder that you push and maintain and stay consistent, the more it ends up being where like you pass that stardom of being someone who's like growing in popularity, and people are just like, oh, that guy, yeah, like he's always done that. Like, and you're just you're like past the stardom part. You're not Tenoch Huerta being Namor. You're
yeah,
already Duke. You're already Winston Duke, who is M'Baku. Like you're already just that guy. Like in
yeah,
those kind of situations.
and 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 people think you've made it overnight, and you
Yes.
don't,
No.
you know, and the one thing the other thing I've started to tell people is it, kind of like what you said, people, we're like crabs in a bucket.
Yep. Pulling each
Well,
other
yeah, but
down.
if you think about it, we were not meant to be in a bucket.
No.
The perspective needs to change. We have a whole world out there. Why do we have to hold each other down? We weren't meant to be in a bucket,
But you know
you
what?
know.
Pattern wise, you know when it starts to change for a lot of people down here is when they want to do something.
Yeah,
Like, but they don't go and show the support to those that have already been doing it.
yeah, and
Does that
and
make
I don't know.
sense?
Yeah, and I don't know why support. It's so hard. Well, I it's been easier for me to get support, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so hard, dude. I mean, people are so quick to knock you down.
Oh yeah.
Ah,
Oh jeez, man, you have
look,
no idea.
yeah, like
When you do
you
have,
doing
yeah, you do have an idea.
like when you started this, I was like fucking badass. And every week that I started watching, I was like, dude, I wish I could be up there. Just, I mean, me and you have had conversations, and I think
Hours,
sometimes
hours.
where I think you're just there, like, shut up, dude. I gotta go to bed.
Nah, dude, I could do this for days. What are you talking
Like,
about, man? I get what is my best friend Christella always calls me a comic sexual. Like that, she's like, that's all you care about is just comics, comics. And it's like, yeah, but it keeps me sane. It keeps me grounded. Keeps me
yeah,
understanding that I really love what I do. So
yeah, and so, I mean, like for me, this is huge, dude. I mean, I was like, do I get to talk about comics? I mean,
you can
yeah.
talk
I
about
mean,
everything, my dude.
it
You can talk
becomes,
about everything here. There's
it
no
it
holes
it
bar here. No holes bar.
yeah. So I mean, that's why I told you I was excited to do this. To be able to throw in my 2 cents,
And we
and
try our
do that.
best,
But
like this week, like I don't have like Brian's not on. And we try to bring people in when Brian's here too, but it's kind of like I try my best to scramble when Brian sometimes gets busy on Friday nights. So I'll hit up a couple of my friends that I know that they're at least comic savvy. Because being comic savvy is important when it comes to what we talk about here on the podcast, which is the idea of the industry maintaining the legacies that have built the foundation of what they're trying to build on top of. Right? So that would be like back in the day when Blade saved the movie universe because Marvel itself was going bankrupt. You know, I think it's fair that, yeah, Marvel has been doing this like exclusivity of diversity where they're trying to build more and bring in more people of POC or color or minorities. But at the same time, like, don't shit on those who kept you afloat though. Like, don't shit on the people who kept you going. Like, in the comic book collecting culture that has maintained Marvel's livelihood, its bloodline, there are diverse people in there too. And it's like I've told people before, like when I was growing up, my favorite comic book character was the Hulk. I didn't want to be green and I didn't need to be green to relate to him. I just needed to read the comic books and understand what he was going through and have good writing and good storytelling for me to be like, wow, like I get it. What a great character.
Yeah.
But we understand too that having a character that is of your ethnicity or race or gender or whatever livelihood you're part of, it feels good. It feels good because it lets people know that you're almost like you're known, you're accepted in the culture of life, in humanity kind of thing. So like right now, I don't know if you noticed, but like the Latino culture is going crazy with Namor, with this character. Like it's all over the place. Mexico is fucking literally like just partying. It's like a rave 24/7 with fucking neon colors everywhere just because of fucking the Mayan culture, the greens and pinks and purples and all this shit. It's going wild. And I mean, I love it. I like to see people happy. That's pretty much what it is.
And see, and for me, and it's kind of what we were talking about earlier about the legacies.
Mhm.
I was hoping they would use this as instead of like having 3 or 4 Wolverines, we even have more than one Batman already.
Fuck yeah, man.
It's like, why can't we have those characters, but not the same, but come up with new characters to fill that role instead of having this character that was for 50 years like this, and then next issue, yeah, he's just changed completely. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you make another character
Superhero.
that'll literally fit what you want, you know?
I can see that. I can see that. And I think that's something that's been highly discussed recently. But of course, like, there's no need to, when you have all of these characters that you still need to touch base with. Because it's like that. I don't think it would be a smart move either for Marvel to make a character, let's say, instead of Namor or whatever they call him, Namor, like they call him Luma. I don't know, just a random name and be like, yo, I know you want Namor and we hear you, but here's Luma. He's a Mexican dude that swims and he's Mayan. And he's not Namor though. Like he wears, I don't know, instead of pink shorts, give him black shorts or purple shorts or green shorts, or I think he wears green shorts, but like give him another color of shorts, like a whole costume, give him a fucking cape. I don't give a shit. Like just change him up. And then they make a movie out of him, but no one's going to read it because no one cares about that storyline because it's not a part of the comics. They would have had to establish these characters when they were clamoring at the idea of changing the diversity and genders of characters.
See, but and that's exactly what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
If you already know, because all of this is mapped out years in advance.
Yep.
So if you know you're heading that way, or if you see this, you know, this is where it's going, why don't you start to build that to get there? That way, when it gets there, you know, you're not having to rearrange the, you know, everything to make it fit. You're not putting a square peg in a round hole, you know?
Yeah. You're not really like, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Because then people like look at Son of Kal-El, Superboy. You know, they made him what he is. 18 issues into it, I think, and the issue's canceled. So what are they going to do? They're going to put him back to being, you know, they're going to let it die down a little, they're going to cave into the pressure. Another writer's going to take over. They're going to make him back to being whatever until you just wasted you just wasted all that potential for both sides
Right.
and just because you wanted to force feed down something that you thought it would
That you
go
thought
that.
was going to work.
Yeah.
That you thought was going to work. And it's understandable too. Like, I mean, the Son of Kal-El story has been, it was an interesting read when it first came out, right? Like when they brought in John Kent. He's a good kid. You know, him and Damian Wayans had a great comic book. What was it? It was the Super Sons. I thought that
Yeah.
was a really great idea. I thought having that diversity, that like that built that team up between both characters was really great. Um, and then they wanted to rush it to where they had like they needed a new Superman. So they created this whole ass like situation where the character goes through like time travel and space and gets kidnapped and beaten by a person that looks like his dad so he can have daddy issues. And then they brought him back and he's now 15, 18. He's older than Damian, which is what they didn't want. And then they made it happen anyways. You know, he's now the new Superman. Then they made it to where he has a boyfriend, and that came kind of out of nowhere. But they tried to make it work, and a lot of people still don't get it, or they don't care for it very much. And I'm not sure why people don't accept it, and it's fine. I think it goes off of the idea that when you force these ideals into people at a fast pace, there's not enough time for it to let it organically create itself. It's not, you don't have an organic story. It just feels like they're just writing it to write it.
Yeah, and it doesn't help, dude, when the writers kind of like, well, whether you like it or not,
We're gonna
that's
do it
what it
anyways.
is.
Yeah,
You
and then they
know.
try to tell you where like this person who has been like a newspaper writer or a blog writer for 20 years and has never been into comic books, doesn't know who he's writing about character wise, just knows that they're a person of that ethnicity, says, well, even though you guys have read comics and you guys are fans of these characters for years, it doesn't matter, because I'm gonna make a character that you've never that you love into what you're gonna love now. And sometimes
Yeah.
it just doesn't work. Yeah, most of the time it just doesn't work, and then they get shit on, and then 18 issues later they end up getting canceled, or New Warriors style, they end up just not even being published, where they didn't even publish that comic book completely. Like,
Yeah, dude. Look at what's his name, dude? The writer that killed that what do you call it? Did one more, well, not one more day. The one where Mephisto splits.
oh yeah, Spider-Man,
Yeah, dude.
Spider-Man, Mary Jane.
That writer got, dude, he got hate mail forever, and it's still
Yeah,
one of the most hated stories.
overall,
But
yeah.
people now are looking back on it like, it, you
I mean,
know.
well, even for what it is, people are still trying to go back to it and make it seem like that comic book is great, and they're trying to be like, oh yeah, like who would ever think that, knowing how much hate that story got, like how much like, I'm not even talking about like people just disliked it, like they hated that story.
Yeah,
And then for Sony or Marvel or Kevin Feige to be like, that's the story I want to bring to the big screen. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's it. I'm going to bring who the fuck? First off, like, okay, let's get a little nerdy with this. When did people start really giving a shit about Mephisto again? Like, what comic arc was it like, dude, we need Mephisto? Like, who the fuck cares about Mephisto? Like, even in the dude, for WandaVision and Loki, and everyone was like, yeah, fuck yeah, we're gonna get Mephisto. And I'm like, dude, who the fuck cares about him? Like, the greatest story that Mephisto has ever been a part of was not WandaVision, it was the Infinity Gauntlet. It was the Gauntlet storyline when they brought him in and he was there to fuck around with Thanos and be like his version of Loki. And that was it. Like, other than that, he's always just been Satan.
check
Like, that's all he's ever been in the comics.
check this out. This is and I remember this. I remember this. I think it was a 4-run series, dude, back in the 90s. I don't know if you remember that Cyclops was married to
Yeah.
Madeline Pryor, and that they had a son. Well, Cable.
Yeah.
Um, there's a story arc where Mephisto, I can't remember why, but he actually kidnaps him, and the Fantastic Four are involved. because first he takes Reed Richard, not Reed Richards, but their son,
Nathaniel.
and yeah, so then they get involved and they get a hold of X Factor, which they wind up losing Madeline's son. So it's kind of like straight, and then after that, it's the X-Men, and then finishes with the Avengers. It was a pretty cool series, but all four of them wound up getting involved, and it all centered around Mephisto. That
Yeah, but that's
story,
because like Mephisto doesn't like marriage, or I don't know what the fucking thing is. Like, dude, good, the guys just not believe in marriage, like through church or whatever. Like, other than that, like literally, other than that, from Mephisto just fucking marriages up. Like, what is his purpose? Like, or not purpose, because purpose is different. Purpose would be like that he's got he's a player in the grand scheme of things, which I really fucking doubt it. Like, what's his bag? Like, what's his thing? Why out of those stories, and knowing that the greatest thing he's ever done is just fuck someone's marriage up? Like, why is that guy the most anticipated villain in the MCU?
true. And if anything, the only reason people might be in people's minds is because when Johnny Blaze gets rid of him, sends him to Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Other
What was
than
that
that,
story called? The something casino?
yeah,
Yeah, I
it was
remember that.
when what do you
Ghost
call it?
Rider becomes King of Hell.
Yeah, I mean, but
Mephisto's is a demon. Demons are just cool. Like, they're just cool. It's just what they do, man.
it's
He's not
yeah,
a demon. He just
and
comes
so
from
and so
another realm that he just looks like an evil guy.
that's why I mean, I was pretty I was pretty stoked when I saw Sasha Baron Cohen supposed to play him.
Oh man. And I'm not even a big fan of that guy either, man.
Oh,
But
I'm not,
if
but
he plays a silly character, then I'm fine. If he plays okay, I'm not really like a big fan of his like stuff. I know a lot of people love Ali G and Borat. I hate Borat. I think Borat is so stupid. But that's the whole point, is it's supposed to be stupid. But if he comes in and plays Mephisto the same way he played the barber in Sweeney Todd, then I'm good with that. Like, I'm like, okay, he could play a dicky jerk kind of dude.
yeah,
Borat is now a demon. That's
and
funny.
and and my only concern is, since at the end of the day, all this is Disney,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So Disney's not gonna let it get like, because remember when we heard multiverse, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, it was supposed to be kind of like a horror movie. That
I mean, it had its moment. I mean, you brought in the horror part was them producing the movie, like them getting it all actually printed out. I mean, that was
well,
the scariest part.
y-
Um, but you
but
brought
I
in
was
Sam
like,
Raimi, right? They brought in Sam Raimi, and I talked about this on the show before. Sam Raimi is a big name, right? He's a huge name when it comes to directing films. I mean, the Evil Dead series to me is probably his best work and most notable. I know that he made the Spider-Man series, which everybody will claim it was the best thing right now, but back in the day we all thought it was okay. And then like when we got the new Spider-Man, a lot of people either said it sucked or the story was stupid, or they had their moments. But out of all of Sam Raimi's movies, I think his best movie, in my opinion, would be the Army of Darkness movie.
yeah, I
And the
agree.
reason why is because it had this blend of comedy that was only something Sam Raimi could do. And he had created this series that was so serious that it wanted to be serious, but Bruce Campbell just could not allow it because of his like stern acting ability to have like the best deliverance of one-liners ever. So when they ended up bringing in Army of Darkness, I think Sam Raimi was just like, well, fuck it, let's just do a comedy, but it was a horror. And I think that's why they kind of went with the idea of making sure that they were like, yo, let's bring Sam Raimi into Doctor Strange, because they were like, we need someone that's going to be able to bring this comical part, but we do need these horror elements. But the problem with it is, since Sam Raimi is such a big person in the film industry, he came in and almost felt like his name as an artist was bigger than Doctor Strange as a character, and thought it was bigger than Marvel. And that's why he went ahead and just said, well, I'm not going to make a Marvel movie. I'm going to make a Sam Raimi movie that's like a Marvel film. And it's like what they should have done, and what I kind of still think, because it happened to that chick that did the Eternals. That lady, the Eternals, what a Chen Z, or I forgot her name, the director. Dude,
Yeah.
that chick won a bunch of awards for some film that she wrote the previous year, a bunch of Oscars. Like, winning an Oscar, you don't win that shit making a fucking shitty movie. Like, you win that making an amazing masterpiece. And then you bring her into the Eternals, and it's like the worst fucking Marvel movie ever created, because you brought in someone who thought they were bigger than these characters that have been bigger than life most of their lives. Spider-Man, to this day, I'll tell everybody, the story for No Way Home, shitty. Still made $1 billion. And it didn't make $1 billion because it was a great story. It made $1 billion because it's Spider-Man. Like, because it's Spider-Man. I'll ask right now, without looking at your phones, without Google chatting or searching or whatever, who's the director of Spider-Man? No Way Home. Who's the director? Said, I don't fucking know.
I
I
can't.
just know he did an okay job, but I know that that he makes Spider-Man look good. You know, they brought in Sam Raimi. I know who the fuck Sam Raimi is. I love Army of Darkness. And I could bring up the numbers right now for that movie. And it made, let's see, just had it up a little while ago. I'll tell you right now.
You want to hear a weird fun fact?
I do.
If you compare the first 6 Marvel movies, you know how we always shit on DC that their movies suck?
Yes.
Okay, if you compare, I don't know if you've heard of Aaron Quinones.
Aaron Quinones. Is he a writer or something like that?
He's got a channel called Valiant.
Variant Comics.
Yeah. I was watching it, and he goes, if you get the first 6 Marvel movies and compare them money, how much they made together, compare them to the first 6 DC movies, True. DC beats them out by, I think, like $1 billion.
Yeah. I wouldn't even doubt it. Even though Marvel's Avengers, I'm looking at the numbers right here. Marvel's Avengers worldwide made $1 billion by itself.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But there's only been a handful. Actually, you know what? Infinity War made $2 billion. So that's pretty good.
I know some people bag on those movies. I really liked those movies, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I'm
not liking what's been coming out recently in the Marvel universe. I'm not like a big fan of them. I mean, I watch them. I watch it for what it's worth. Robert says in the comment section, I heard Disney Plus Daredevil is going to be a TVMA. I really doubt it. It's still Disney, dude. Like, do you think they're gonna do Daredevil TVMA when they brought him out as like a sex toy in a latex suit and She-Hulk? Like, it doesn't make any sense for them to go dark and gritty when they made him like silly and witty in the other movie.
See, it makes me wonder, because I don't know about anybody else, but I am so looking forward to Daredevil. I mean, for Daredevil 2, but Deadpool 3 coming out.
Oh, dude, most definitely. Yeah, everyone, because they're not gonna fuck with that. They're not gonna fuck with him. They're gonna fuck with Ryan Reynolds. He knows what he's doing, man.
Yeah, but the sad part is, I think they said this is gonna be his last Deadpool. He's not, after this. He's not playing Deadpool anymore. He's done.
I doubt it. They're not gonna he's not gonna sign this really badass deal with Marvel and get pulled in finally, and then just do one and bounce. Like, I just, if anything, he's gonna be like a reoccurring character, but I doubt they're gonna do like a straight up like Deadpool film, unless he just knows that Marvel isn't gonna play by his rules, and there's no way to break that.
And so I don't know. I'm not sure which way, but there's supposed to be a lot of like dimension crossing over and a whole bunch. So I'm just wondering how all that's going to work with what he's like. I'm excited to see it.
I'll tell you how I heard a part of it's going to happen is sounds really weird, but I heard he's going to be a major villain or player in Loki the next season. That he's the person that the TVA is chasing because he's going around doing the Deadpool kills the MCU. But he's doing it in the Fox universe. So he's going around, he's killing baby Thanos, he's killing everybody that's in the Fox universe, and that's going to be the start of the incursion of
Well,
that universe. Which, I mean, if you really want to break it down, that would make a lot of sense to have the incursion of the Fox universe, which gives you the idea of why Charles Xavier was the Fox universe Charles Xavier, why Deadpool references him and McAvoy, like while he's able to say Josh Brolin as Thanos, like because he's already been crossing into all these other universes, and that happens after the what is it, Loki breaking the dimensional wall with Sylvie and all this other stuff.
yeah, well, they set it up this last movie because remember he got
Yeah,
Cable's.
he got the jumping thing, but that's a time jump. It's a time jump. It's not multiverse, but
Oh, that's
still,
right,
that's
that's right.
but even though it's a time jump, he could still kill that version of the MCU with a time jump. He'd just be jumping back in people's times and wiping them out, making sure no one finds Captain America's shield, making sure Banner's never at that event, making it or in the gamma radiation, the Fantastic Four never goes to the space. Like he could just be doing a bunch of shit in the Fox universe and fucking everybody over, which I'm 100% for. Because I think, of course, Josh Brolin's Cable was fantastic. Ryan Reynolds, what's up, Joanna? Happy birthday! If I'm not mistaken, I think it's your birthday. Happy birthday! We got Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, of course, coming into the MCU. Josh Brolin is Cable, of course. We just had him as Thanos, so to have him be referenced as Thanos, or like people in the movies be like, "You look super familiar, dude." Like,
Yeah,
have you ever been purple or some shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like that would be fucking funny. And then, of course, bringing in Zazie as Domino would be fucking awesome because she did a bang up job as Domino.
I actually doubted that she would be able to pull it off, and I was wrong. She
Oh
did
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
she did a really
that
good
was like
job.
on the cusp of people doing like, of course, the gender transitioning or the cultured swaps between characters. And I mean, Domino's always been this primary character that's always been like this white and black character, which is the fact of why they call her Domino. But the way they wrote her character was super cool. It was awesome. What's up, Rick? What's up, my dude? The way they wrote Domino in Deadpool was really great. It was really great. It was so dude, her attitude was awesome. It bounced off of Ryan Reynolds' comedy, super fantastic. And I mean, I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with the characters coming into the MCU.
Yeah,
Um, Going into we can start breaking into our conversational stuff about regular stuff. So talking about what we mentioned earlier, it's been mentioned in the comments before. There's been news of Chris Hemsworth saying that the next film for Thor he feels is going to be his last like mentioning of Thor. Like he's not gonna really want to come and reprise this role. And he's talking about them doing this arc for the character where they finally like kill him off. But this comes on the cusp of an interview that was done yesterday on a show where Chris Hemsworth said that he had been getting genetic tests done on himself, and they found that he has early symptoms or stages of Alzheimer's. So the
wow.
idea is they found it. They found him in a genetic code that there's a huge possibility that there's this that he may start to develop Alzheimer's like in the next couple of years. So he's talking about, of course, coming to this idea that, the next time he reprises the role of Thor, that it's probably going to be the last one. And I mean, no one wants to hear this kind of news. I think it's safe to say that Chris Hemsworth, as an actor, as a person, from what we know, I mean, we've never really met the guy. I know some people have at conventions and stuff, but from what we know is he's a genuinely a nice guy. And I think his portrayal of Thor has been great. I mean, the stories, like Thor Ragnarok was great. Of course, I wasn't a big fan of Gore the God Butcher story, Love and Thunder, but that's not on the actor. That's on the writers and the creators of the story. The actor himself has done an amazing job as Thor through and through. He's loved the role and he's done an amazing job with it. I remember him saying a while back, this kind of reminisces on the idea that he says he would want to play Thor till he's an old man. But of course, medical issues involved, it kind of makes it a lot harder. There has been some kind of like talks of people saying that this is actually Chris Hemsworth, since he's like the last of the guard of the original Avengers cast, that this is kind of like him saying like, well, maybe it's time I step away too. Maybe there's really not much you can do with the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, of course, there's a lot of great stories with Thor. A lot of great stories. Some of them have, I would say, have been flybys with the way the MCU's has handled them. Um, I think the Gore the God Butcher story was highly underused and underutilized in the way that they wrote Love and Thunder. But now, what do you do with the character other than him becoming the God King Odin, like that character where he becomes the All Father? Like, what do you do with him now? And that's because we're barely in the comic books getting at least some type of touch on what All Father Thor's story is going to be about. Like, what do we go from here if they choose to end his character in the films?
Well, I guess it depends what they were thinking, because I thought he had just re-signed his contract for a couple of movies, but of course, nobody knew this was going to
Yeah,
happen,
and
you
this was
know?
going to happen. And of course, this just kind of it just came up recently. And of course, Chris Helmsworth being a man of health and working out and being fit and doing that stuff, he wants to take his health into his own hands, and he's probably going to try to figure this out in the early stages to see what he could do. So that's what I think is going to happen, and that's why he's going to fixate so much. And then the other thing too is if you know that there's a possibility that in the next couple of years you can have your brain regress so far that you don't remember anybody and you won't even remember yourself, I think the opportunity would be that he would want to spend the most of his time with his children and his wife to
Yeah.
work on just absorbing as much time that he lacked on having when he was making films for this long.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, I love comics, I love the characters, but family always comes
Comes
first,
first.
you know. And it doesn't, at the end of the day, accolades and the money, I mean, what do you get?
Yeah.
A pine box, no matter how much money you got.
Yeah, it all becomes the same. In the end, it's all the same. And the only thing that you have that's worth value is time and memories and stuff and the legacy you leave behind.
Yeah.
I
And
think more than likely they're probably going to get one more movie out of him. And I
see,
think if this is the idea of the last film that he's going to do, I would say they would have to do like a really good send off for the character. And like I said, right now his character is still very, very active in the MCU and the comic books.
but this is where they ruined. This is one where Marvel got ahead of itself, because had they really wanted to do something awesome to end
Yeah.
it, they
This
could have
last
done
movie
it.
would have been it.
Yeah, this, because you could have done the Gore the God Butcher
Mhm.
story, because you have old Rune King Thor,
Mhm.
you have Thor, and then you have young Thor.
Yep.
And then in this one, you actually could have had his brothers join in. One of them as the younger,
Older. Oh yeah.
yeah, and then the older. I mean, you could have done a really good movie like that,
Yeah.
but that's already been squandered,
Yeah, it's already been
you know.
squandered out really bad. It's already been
So
smashed up.
now you're gonna have to. I mean, depending where they're getting the source of their material, I mean, they're gonna have to go back and look, because this is. I mean, like I said earlier, they probably mapped all this out for years, and they've probably got them down for two or three more movies. Now you're gonna have to rearrange
Really,
all
really
that
figure
to
it out.
make it one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to figure it out. I think one of the best possible. Okay, so we know that Jane Foster in Thor: Love and Thunder ends up going to Valhalla, which I don't really know because she didn't die fighting. It just pushed her cancer, and the cancer killed her, which wasn't the fight, but um, it is what it is. She goes to Valhalla, sees what's his name, the guy with the Heimdall.
Hmm.
She's gonna end up going through the comic books, and she's gonna end up being Valkyrie, where she
Yeah.
ends up becoming the power and becoming the new Valkyrie, which is you have Queen Valkyrie, which they haven't even given her a name except for Valkyrie, which I don't know how Jane Foster is going to then become Valkyrie and be called Valkyrie also. Thor, what I think is going to happen by chance. I'm just going to shoot this out there in the middle of nowhere. This will be my early prophetic call, my theory of what's going to happen. It's going to be the story on how Thor becomes King Thor and how he'll have to sit and take Asgard back to space, like New Asgard. He'll have to take it off planet Earth, and he'll have to be the king of the realms as Odin was, and he'll have to see it as a god. And that's what's going to kind of take him away from being Thor of the MCU. That'll be him stepping away because he's going to have to jump into his kinghood. I think then Valkyrie comes back. Jane Foster comes back as Valkyrie. I don't think Tessa Thompson will be a queen of Asgard unless they're going to do a Taika Waititi moment and be like, hey, what's up, Kyle, man? How's it going, my dude? Unless they're going to make Thor like Queen Thor and King Valkyrie. You know what I mean? They're going to do some silly shit. What's up, the dudeness? What's up, hi, dudeness? That's awesome. That's a cool name. I think more than likely he becomes King Thor, gets his powers like the Odin Force, the Thor Force. And then what I think happens after that is they're going to introduce Beta Ray Bill as the Thor that's going to be the character that's going to be going forward. And the way that he's going to get that is Thor will be the king that gives him Stormbreaker. That's what I really think is going to happen, because that gives you the opportunity to have, of course, another Odin character. That gives you the opportunity to have a Thor character, and then you get Jane Foster in the mix somewhere too. So, again, from Thor: Love and Thunder, I think the daughter is Singularity. So Singularity was the character that was in the A-Force? The A-Force
I think
comic
so.
books. Yeah, and then she became popular during Secret Wars, the new comic book. I'm just reading the comments, making sure we're catching up with her. Don't you think Riri is so much better than Iron Man? Not really. But, I mean, through and through, the next thing is, like, we know Riri's going to be in the films because they brought her into the Wakanda Forever movie. It was a little bit of a better introduction than it was in her comic book, because the comic book, she did not get fleshed out right. But, yeah, I mean, her character was not necessary in Wakanda Forever, but it was okay. Uh-oh. What do you think, Doctor? Let me know what's going on, if it's a bad thing. Thank you guys for joining into the live stream, though. Really appreciate it. So, Sal, what do you think's going to do, man? It's pretty bad to hear about Chris Helmsworth.
It's pretty. I mean, the only thing that runs through my mind is it's almost like Marvel rushed everything for Thor, because I mean, Ragnarok shouldn't even have happened yet. Like, what was the whole point of having it so soon? Like, even like, let's say Chris wasn't going through this, I would have saved Ragnarok more for, like, when Chris was like, you know what, I need to step away from, you know what, like, I'm done playing the character. How
Yeah,
are we going to end it? And then that way, because I mean, it's the same thing in Norse mythology. When Thor dies, everything becomes anew. So then you could come back with another Thor, and that would give you your door to kill off Chris Hemsworth and go ahead and bring in another Thor. But at this point, now they're gonna have to kind of shuffle their stuff around, to make it fit. So you're gonna have to get that square peg to fit that round hole again. And it's almost like they're digging themselves into a hole, and where they started off really well, but it's just dumbfounding that it just looks like they have no idea where they're going, because you would think these stories wouldn't have happened till later on. At least for me, that's how I would have thought about it. Like, well, whenever he's ready to relinquish when he's ready to relinquish the role, that's when we can do this, And I mean, and it's not like they don't know to a certain point, because they're signing them to 10-year contracts for, hey, you got to do 8 movies. Okay, we can have an idea of where we're going.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I know this is a little different, but it still kind of leaves me like, you used up all your bullets. Now you got to figure out what you're gonna do to where it doesn't look unnatural, you know, in where it is.
Well, it's like we
And
talked about before when we were off the live stream. The problem with Marvel right now is they have all of these masterpiece stories that they had written that the comic books have been following for such a long time, and the characters have been developed through those stories, and it's always been a bunch of legacy characters. But it wasn't until recently that they started in the films where they were, of course, changing the characters up and bringing out like the younger generation of characters, which is a lot of people like to compare them to like the Young Avengers in the comic books, which of course had its opportunity and its potential when it was selling comic books, but it still wasn't as big as the legacy characters, the original Iron Man, Captain America, regular Thor, Hulk, all that stuff, right? But the
yeah,
idea is you're taking all of these new age characters and you're trying to put them into those legacy arcs, but those characters weren't involved in those arcs. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the biggest problem is that I think that's the biggest situation is you have all of these characters that have no foundation in the comic books and they've recently been introduced, but they're trying to implement them and substitute them for the characters that have been there for years and the legacy characters that have built these stories. That's the hard part. That's the thing that Marvel, they just got done. I mean, if you think about it in phase 3 after Infinity War, they pretty much took out all the original Avengers characters and then they just left all of these young children characters. I mean, like anybody that's out there, if you're a comic book fan, and like I know that some people are out there just putting some wild stuff in the comment section and whatnot. Like, do you think, like, of course, a lot of people did not accept all of these new characters, you know, the America Chavez, the new version of Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Riri Williams, all of these characters. A lot of them aren't really taken serious in the comic book section. And then when they introduced them to film, was there at least some part of you that was like, well, you know what? Like, I would support it if when they brought these characters out in film, they actually cared to develop a story rather than force feed us it to what they did. To what they did in the comics. Like, are the films going to make them better than what they did in the comics? Because in the comic books, they just fed this like crazy, like they just threw it out there. They're like, oh, here's Riri Williams, the smartest child. She's a person of color. She made an arc reactor in her garage with some Legos and some shit. Like nobody else could do it. And yeah, there you go. Now accept it. And nobody cared for it. Nobody cared for it at all. But with the way that they developed her in the new Black Panther movie, the Wakanda Forever movie, they just made it to where it's like, okay, cool. Well, she's not 13. She's 19. So even in that, like, she's not like a child genius the way that they were trying to portray her in the films. Like, I mean, in the comics, they made it where she was like a child genius, MIT, Doogie Howser, and all this other shit, right? But like now they just made her into just a genius person that's at MIT. So like it just doesn't even feel the same.
and then you start to wonder who's following who. Is it the comics following the movies, or is it the movies following the comics? And then if it's the movies, if it's the comics following the movies, then it becomes kind of dangerous because where do you go from there? Where are you really going? You know,
Mm-hmm.
because
JJ looks like Superman. That's awesome. Superman. I can't read that, but yeah. Like, where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? I'm trying to read in the comment section to see if anybody's leaving any comments. Dr. Till, Ministry of Dudes, puts, where can I get a link? I'd like to talk to you guys. Tripcast says, I come on, sir. The link in the description isn't working. I host an exclusive movie review channel called Burn Popcorn with my gay co-host Ken of the North. Oh, dude, nice, dude. Thank you guys for coming on and chatting with us and chilling with us, man. King Yeti did leave a comment earlier, which I was really impressed with. What he said, that Marvel needs to make a Blue Marvel movie.
Dude,
how do you feel about Blue? Man, Blue Marvel would be so good.
That would be a movie worth watching.
I think he's an interesting character, and I think like naturally his character like has like these talking points that a lot of people have been wanting to perpetrate in film. And I think that story's already developed. They had this black Superman-esque character back in the 50s, 60s, saves the president, and in the process of him fighting Anti-Man, gets like his costume ripped, and they notice he's black, and then like the president's like, "Yo, we can't have that, bro.
Yeah.
We can't have that. Can you like retire for us? Because the world will go crazy." And then his character just kind of accepts it and says, "Okay, sounds good." And then like retires after he stops the world from being crushed like a meteor. I forgot what it was. And then comes back when he's fighting Anti-Man. Comes back when he's fighting Anti-Man, and the Avengers are like, "Who's this guy?" He like drops, like literally, he floors all the Avengers of that time. Blue Marvel would be an interesting character, but the problem is they're going to introduce him in the Marvels movie. I think they're going to introduce him in the Captain Marvel 2 movie. So
Blue Marvel?
Yeah, I think they're going to introduce him in that one. I think he's going to be the person that is going to be like the person that's dating the Spectrum chick.
Oh, okay.
Monica Rambeau. I think that's going to be like her connection. I think it's going to be him, which will be cool.
As long as they don't show him suiting up, because anything after that, the movie's over. Like, who are they going to bring that's going to stop him? You know, I mean, literally, if he, let me put it this way, had he been in Endgame within the first 10 minutes, he
would have tanked everybody, man.
Yeah. So he's just so powerful that what character are you going to bring to that you can say, hey, this dude will he'll put up a fight against them.
I know, man. That'd be pretty cool, man. That would be really cool if they brought in Captain Marvel. Or not Captain Marvel, but Blue Marvel.
It'd be cool.
But then again, I've been a big fan for what is it? Hyperion. I'm a big fan of Hyperion when it comes to the Squadron Supreme. What is his name? Michael Millard or Matthew Millard? That was the other thing that I was thinking, that what would be a very interesting situation is if they brought in Hyperion. Owen Reese, dude. Owen Reese would be wild as fuck, man.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, man. Molecule Man. That would be super crazy. But yeah, Hyperion's always been a really interesting character to me. And I think that would be another thing that would be great. Like if they end up doing one more movie, like if Thor, I'm like not Thor, but Chris Hemsworth gets the opportunity to do one more film as Thor. And let's say it gets close to like Secret Wars, right? I think it could be a really great ending if they did the Path to the End, or what's that one series that they were doing where it's Hyperion and Thor fighting the Beyonders at the very end of time.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that line, dude.
Yeah. What is it? A crackle of lightning and a sound of thunder in the distance as two gods fell.
Yeah, but where he tells him, do you think we'll see something to the point of where we see each other in Valhalla? And
yeah, and he's like, will you wait for me? And he's like, brother, I'll race you there.
I'll race you there.
Yeah, that was such a fun, man. That was really awesome. Dude, that was an interesting time.
I ordered those off eBay. When I saw them, I was like, dude, I gotta order those.
I think that would be man. If they could pull off that in film, that would be a really interesting way, because I've been kind of like I mean, The Eternals was such a bad movie, but the way that they wrote Icarus was pretty interesting. So like having that like Superman-esque style character come into the Marvel universe, where DC's been kind of struggling at kind of maintaining a solid series or a solid film. The idea of fucking Henry Cavill in and out of the Superman world. Like there was even talks of course, Henry Cavill coming to Marvel and everybody wanting him to be some kind of strong character also. I think it's about time they brought in some Superman-esque character into this universe, but they can't have the focus like mainly on him the way they have it in the Superman universe. Yeah, King, you're not wrong, dude. They did mess up Thor, Gore in Love and Thunder, man. They messed him up real bad.
If they can make an Eternals movie, they can definitely make a Squadron Supreme movie.
But how do you think that works? Like, how do you think that's like? Do you think it's accepted because of the fact that the Squadron Supreme is like literally like a ripoff of the Justice League or the Justice Society? You think it ends up working?
I think it could, because you'd be able to make it different enough still to it. I think it would depend which one you're using because there's a
Mhm.
couple of different iterations. Like I like the same Hyperion you did,
Yeah.
the one that came out in Secret Wars. Like
Yeah.
that guy was no. I mean, he took most of his cues from Thor. You know,
Yeah, and not
it's
only that, like Hyperion, what makes him cool is like he is the injustice variation of Superman.
yeah,
Like that's pretty much what he is. Is like he's a good guy, but he's like, well, I guess if you mess up, he's like the three strike rule in LA. Like you end up going, you mess up three times and they send you to jail or whatever. But Hyperion's one of those dudes that's like, if he warns you once, like he's just gonna probably end up killing you.
yeah, and I mean, like you read that one, right? The one where it kind of where Mephisto, he comes
Mephisto.
in and he makes Coulson the president of the United States, and he makes it to where the Avengers never were there, but the Squadron Supreme takes their place, and so who is it, dude? One of the Avengers actually shows up, and the Hulk actually remembers, you know, and he's as he's fighting Hyperion, he's telling
Mhm.
him, "Where's Steve Rogers? Where's Captain America? This isn't the way it's supposed to be,"
Yeah.
you know. Um, but
Oh,
in
you're
that,
talking about the new series, Heroes Reborn.
there you go,
Yeah,
Heroes
Heroes
Reborn.
Reborn. Yeah, that's when Mephisto gives Phil Coulson like this new version of the Tesseract. It's like an evil version of the Tesseract, and he ends up creating like his own world. And Blade still remembers Captain America,
There
and
you go.
like
Yeah, it
all the
was
Avengers
Blade.
are there. They just don't know who they are. Like Captain America's just chilling, Thor's at a bar drinking. Like it's a little weird. At the end, of course, but it's this goes off of the idea that they just don't know what to do with these characters anymore. Like Squadron Supreme itself has been in this situation where it's been in like a void of them not knowing what to do with these stories. What's up, John? How's it going? King Yeti,
Well,
yes. It's the Century that is also the void. And the
we,
Gladiator would be cool, but I think they're going to save him for the X-Men if they end up doing anything with Gladiator, which I just that's way down the road, man. But
and
John, what's up, my dude?
here's my question. All either a lot of these writers either don't know the material because they don't read comics,
Yeah, they don't read comics.
or a lot of them they'll say, "Oh yeah, I read comics as a kid." Well, then we did we all read the same issues? Because there seems to be a big disconnect from. It's almost like you don't know what you're writing. You're just writing to because you got to fill pages, you
Yeah,
know.
because you got to fill pages up and you got to do some check marks and you got to say the right things and whatnot.
Yeah, because
Um,
I mean,
so
like we were talking about Namor, he's been around forever, dude, and the people that are here now kind of don't know, still don't know what to do.
and then like Vince, what am I? This is my one of my bros, man. He always comes in and asks the cool questions. He's like, maybe what we get, Squadron Supreme in the Thunderbolts movie. The Thunderbolt movie is going to be a cool opportunity, but from what I hear and what I've heard in certain blogs and certain pickups and stuff like that from people that message us, is that the Thunderbolts movie is going to revolve around what happened recently in the or what was brought to fruition in the Wakanda Forever movie, where Wakanda is not sharing the resource of vibranium, which is what everybody else wants, even though Wakanda said that they would be willing to help and share the knowledge. But of course, the US and other countries want vibranium because vibranium as a material is very, very well for making weapons that are unbreakable and all this other stuff and great sources of resources when it comes to like it's just a great material to have. Like it's the material to have in the Marvel universe. And it's very, very valuable. And Wakanda has it and the rest of the countries want it. That's kind of like the thing around it. Now, now that they've established this idea that there's small pockets of vibranium in other places, the United States will now have a reason to not go after Wakanda for it anymore. So that takes away the idea of them having to make stories about the US or France or Germany or any other country coming to Wakanda anymore, like for that.
Yeah,
But um the Thunderbolts film is supposed to be that chick, what's her name? I don't want to say Amanda Waller because that's from DC. Um, the chick that was in the US agent character,
Is it Valerie something?
Yeah, it's the chick that used to come out like on TV shows. What's her name?
Yeah, she used to come out in Seinfeld.
Agents. She used to be Nick Fury's chick. Valentina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Valentina. You know what I'm talking about, right? The one that came out on the Captain America show.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's yeah, Julia Valentina. She is going to be a part. Hey, thank you, King Yeti, man. Thank you for jumping in. Thank you for subbing too, man. We'll see you next Friday, dude. We do this every Friday. We talk comics and nerdy stuff, man. Join us. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody else who jumped in. Even though there was just so many weird comments that were coming in, people just trying to troll and be weird. But I appreciate every one of you anyways, man. Valentina came in. There's a part where she kind of just shows up real quick in the Black Panther film, and that's why she comes up recently. But from what I've heard through like the underground, is that the Thunderbolts movie is going to be about Valentina telling the Thunderbolts that they need to go into Wakanda and steal the vibranium. So it's going to be literally like them versus Wakanda, which I kind of like. I'm not about because we just had Namor do it. I would kind of be a little bit more interested if it was them trying to get into Namor's place, because Namor still has to be associated with the world in some way.
Yeah.
Because I have to ask something. This goes out to anybody else in the comment section that's watching and listening. If you've seen Black Panther the movie, because I don't want to spoil too much, because Sal, you haven't seen it yet. Hopefully you'll probably go watch it this weekend or whatnot. Guys, I do encourage you guys to go watch it. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's a good movie. I know that, of course, there's a lot of people that don't like it. There's a lot of political stuff to it and things like that. It's an okay movie. It's worth a watch. It's the best thing coming out of Phase 4, but not the best that Marvel's done. Why is it that the situation in Black Panther the movie brings like such stress to Namor and it affecting Talokan, which is the place where they live underwater and whatnot, but half of the universe being fucking snapped away and like a bunch of their people underwater just magically disappearing didn't freak them the fuck out to come up and be like, yo, what the fuck did you all do? Like, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, like
like
there was no questions.
yeah, dude, they didn't even ask. Like, fucking Namor comes out of the water and he's just like, yo, you got to do this shit for me because you told everybody in the United States that you're willing to take your walls down or whatever the fuck, and now they're over here trying to get our shit. And it's like, didn't it concern you that half of your people turned into like dirt underwater or mud? Like, what do they turn into when they're down there? Like just sprinkles of shit like in the air.
It's just
and like just half of your community just disappears. Like that didn't fucking concern you more? Like I would have been like, I would have swam up to the top of the water and been like, fuck, what the fuck? What are y'all doing, assholes? Like, yeah, that was like the biggest thing to me that I didn't quite understand about the Wakanda Forever movie is that why is it the thing that Riri Williams does scares the Telokans more than the people that just disappeared one day and stayed disappeared for 5 years? Or yeah, and then all of a sudden, like just fucking reappear out of nowhere back underwater after 5 years of being missing. Like that didn't scare you? That was scared the fuck out of me, dude.
Yeah, like were they like, oh, is it that time again? You back?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're good.
Like that's the only thing that tripped me out. I mean, other than that, the movie's pretty good. Yo, so tell me. I mean, you're kind of outside the loop of this, but what have you heard about this Black Panther movie? And tell me your theories about it and all your desires and your wants and your needs and stuff.
I'll say this. I wasn't looking forward to seeing it in the beginning, and I mean, I think I expressed it to you where I wasn't big on them changing Namor's ethnicity. I was like,
okay,
like why?
And that's because we're part of that ethnicity.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
You know, I was like, I don't see it, but you know, but because either A, I was so used to the way he was, or B, I don't see how it's gonna work going forward.
Okay,
You know,
wait. Before we go, what do you mean by the way he was? I gotta get you to explain that.
like I was just so used to him being just an Atlantean, and I
Okay.
always took that it's kind of like saying, well, you're Hispanic, you're black, like Atlantean was just you're an Atlantean, you know,
Like its own
and then
culture.
yeah, it's a culture as to where I mean now it's like, yeah, we're Atlantean, but we're like they explained so much, and my thoughts were, the way it sounded was, oh well, he's gonna be the villain because he's pretty much an anti-hero. He doesn't, you know, he's say what you want, but he cares about his people, and that's all that's his thing.
I mean, but that's always been a given in the comic books too. When it came to Namor, he literally fucked over Wakanda to Thanos just because Black Panther attacked Wakanda one time, or
Yeah,
attacked Atlantis once.
and that's his thing. Like, you don't mess with Atlantis. You don't mess with my people. It's
Hmm.
you know, and so when they were like, yeah, he's the bad guy, and guess what? He's fucking Mexican. I was like, really? That's what we're gonna do? Like, we finally get a shot at the big leagues, and you make us out to be the bad guy. But you know, I'm starting to hear, well, he's really not the bad guy, and he doesn't really, it's there's more to it than the way they made it sound. So
You know
now
what?
I'm
As a matter of fact, I think the backstory, and this is I don't know if I could explain this very well, but I think the backstory that's done in Wakanda Forever for Namor is a little bit better than the way it's been done in the comic books because it's so cut and dry in the comic books. Like it's literally the same copy paste you do Aquaman, same copy paste you do for Poseidon, and it's literally an antithesis to the Poseidon story in in the comics, or not in the comic, in Greek mythology. It's literally written in the same prospect, and then it's like Poseidon goes and has a baby. That baby then becomes the king of the underwater people that no one really knows of because they just live underwater. Like
mm,
that's pretty much what it is. I think with the way that they did this one was a little bit more interesting, where they made it seem where it was like the but then again, continuity is the biggest problem when it comes to a lot of these films. Is like, so they made it because of the fact that it's always about vibranium. Vibranium enriched soil alters people's DNA when ingested or when put into their bodies in some way. Then you have the Submariner come to life. Namor, he's again the oldest literal living character almost on the planet, because of the thing that he ingested, which is vibranium based. But then my question is every person that ingests vibranium and is changed, how is that a spiritual thing where they're imbued by some type of god to be like a deity character or a demigod because they're imbued by him? Does that happen to everybody? Because like you go through the way that Wakanda does it, Black Panther, they take the heart-shaped herb, and the heart-shaped herb then changes them into the embodiment of Baal, the Panther god, right?
yeah.
So now you have Namor who takes in some type of way and type of vibranium. Now the way it's written is he says, "I'm a mutant." Now we know that in the comic books to know that Namor, cool man, Namor is the first ever mutant recorded in the comic books before Apocalypse, and then they brought out Apocalypse later, and vice versa, right? He was one of like the first known mutants in the world or whatever. Um, in this one, he doesn't say mutant because he understands that mutants is a race of person that Charles Xavier studies and all of this other stuff. It's not based on that. He's literally calling himself a mutant because he's genetically different from his people. That's kind of like the way that he does it. Because out of all his people, they're all blue skinned and they all just fucking breathe underwater. Well, this fucking dude's got wings on his feet. He flies. He's strong as fucking Thor, the Hulk, and the women want him. Fucking, I don't know. That's a superpower, but that's always the way it goes in the comics. But you get that. Like he just kind of says, like, I'm like some type of mutant to my people. I'm a fucking freak or whatever. Like that's kind of like the way he says it. He's not claiming to be a mutant, but a lot of people, of course, like George says in the comments, like he fucking eats a veggie that's vibranium based, and boom, mutant, got it. So then it kind of perpetrates this idea that, like, okay, cool. Like, are we gonna initiate the idea that vibranium is what started the mutant culture in this version of the Marvel universe, or is it going to be an evolutionary trait that just happens to be a part of humanity? In the comic books, I think that it ends up being where mutants are an evolutionary trait where it's a human and a deviant. It's always been
Yeah.
my theory of it, where it's like you have the Eternals fighting the deviants, and it just so happens humanity mutated into this idea where it's a mixture of human and deviant, and they have these like powers or whatnot. That
And
was my
and
theory on it.
and,
But
and
like
you're
now
right.
that it's making it seem like vibranium was one of the major causes
Yeah, because you're right. Because in Avengers versus X-Men versus
everyone
Eternals,
versus
the the
Mujeres Guijinas, or what is it?
the the deviants are able to walk through the Krakoan door.
Yeah, yeah,
And he
because they're
tells them the reason we can is because our DNA is so similar
yep.
that we're able to walk through it. So then it goes back to what you said. So then what is Marvel saying now? Is it that it's vibranium that sets it off? Because if so, then technically, are they immune? Because like Namor had to ingest it, so he wasn't born that way, but everybody else, the next generation
It's
after it was.
it's different, right? So I don't want to give you any spoilers because I don't want to ruin any of this stuff for you. But I feel with being like that, you're not going to watch the movie yet. You waited a whole week. I guarantee the internet has kind of done that job for me. That you
Yeah.
probably have already seen the whole movie, but just through Facebook's eyes, not through the actual like theater.
I mean, I'm okay with the spoilers. I'm gonna watch it anyways. So I
It's
mean,
just that the way that they make Namor happen is very interesting. It's very similar like to the way Blade was, where it's like the mother and the father were part of a culture that was like dying out and they needed help, so they prayed to the gods, and then all of a sudden like this plant grew out of the ground that was like glowing, so they decided to think it was like a message, and they
mm,
ingested it all together like a cult, and then
yeah.
they woke up and they were just internally changed. But the thing is the mother was pregnant. So like
Oh,
instead of
okay.
it being where Namor ingested it, it's that the mother took it while she had him in it. So like it's kind of like
He
a
was
petri
born.
dish of a child in vibranium in his stomach. So like that's the way you end up getting Namor, and it's like that's why he's so like he does have similarities to like I guess what the Black Panther has, which is like he's a little bit stronger. Well, he's fucking super strong, but he's stronger naturally, still human being esque, but he's got like pointy ears and wings on his feet and can fly.
See, and and then you start wondering, like, kind of like the Terrigen Mist
Mm-hmm.
for the Inhumans. You know how, hey, if you ingest it, if you are an Inhuman, we don't know what powers you're
What
gonna
powers you're
get.
gonna get?
Yeah. So is that something like vibrate? Like, does vibranium give everybody the same power, even though we're all different?
Yeah, that's kind of like the thing that I was kind of like. That's what I left thinking. I was like, wait, so vibranium created the mutants? Does that mean like everybody's just gonna be like Captain America strong, and then we just need a suit like Black Panther to be cool, or what does it do? Um, Vince asks if you could recast Namor in the MCU, what would be your pick? What's his name, dude? What's that guy's name from Dracula? There's a Dracula movie that just came out recently.
There was a Dracula movie.
Yeah, dude, the one where the guy wore the fucking armor.
Oh, he came out in The Hobbit too, right?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I can't believe I can't remember his name. I'm so horrible with names. Luke something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Luke something. Luke, it's Luke something. Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. Luke Evans, right?
I think so.
Yeah, let me see. Luke Evans. Yeah, Luke Evans. I think okay, so there was like a fan. I don't know if you could see it, but I'll bring it up real quick. And I showed this on the podcast a while back. I don't want to take away from Tenoch Huerta, amazing fellow. And I've literally been stuck on watching like all of him going around and representing the movie and the film. And he's such a wholesome person. Like he's so wholesome. And I do like the fact that he got the opportunity to he got chosen for this part, that he got the job. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah,
But there
I'm,
is like some fan pictures of this dude Luke Evans being Namor, and he looks super similar to the way he looks in the comics. Like it's just what it is. Did we
I
get
mean,
him to be that character? Nah, we got Tenoch Huerta, which uh, I myself was a little about when it first came out. But after getting the opportunity to see the movie and seeing him portray the character, I thought he did an amazing job. And he really brought out the turmoil that the character goes through as a king, which was very well. And then not only that, dude, like we know Namor in the comics is a guy about the ladies. Like we know that. And there's like a whole ass scene dedicated to him, like laying out the fucking pickup lines on Shiri on a part of the film, and there was like a whole ass thread of people being like, "Yo, I shipped that. I want Namor and Shiri to be together," and blah blah blah. Like, dude, it was wild, man. It was wild as fuck. But you get this really cool vibe when you're watching it, and you're like, "Yo, I can't wait for the Fantastic Four movie for this guy to be trying to slut it up with fucking Susan Storm,
it's a
man."
store.
Yeah,
With
and Susan Storm being like, "Get away from me, dude, you fucking pig." And then when she wants to make Reed Richards mad, she's like, "Yo, Namor, let's go on a date. Yo, take me to your underwater adventure and shit." I can't wait for
dude,
that shit. That'd be super fucking funny, man. I can't wait for that stuff.
I remember laughing when I read that. It's like, oh snaps, he actually did get to hit that.
Yeah. He
Wow.
went at it. Yeah. In a fit of weakness, Susan Reed Richards or whatever fucking kind of falls into the hype, dude. And that's why it was really funny where Rick and Morty brought in that one dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. I was like, God damn it. They know Namor better than my MCU does. But he did an amazing job, man. What other questions did you have about the Black Panther movie, or the
Well,
Wakanda Forever movie?
well, the one of the ones is because I heard that Namor and them have, you know how the Black Panther has Wakanda Forever, or
Mm-hmm.
what is it, in Bombay or something like that.
Yeah, Ipombe, yeah.
Yeah. So does does uh does Namor get to say Imperious Rex? Because you know how that's his thing.
Um,
But being that he's met, that it's not
that was
that one.
okay.
What does he say?
So he does have that. He does have that, and it's interesting because there is a translation for it in Spanish or in Mayan. I forgot what the Mayan language is called, but he does have a variation and say it. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
But he doesn't say that, right? Imperious Rex.
I think he does. Yeah, I want to say. I think he does. There's a part in the film where um, he's about to take someone out, and before he does it, he says it.
Ah,
But at the end of the film, he also says it in a way. Also, let me see. Yeah, but like I said, at the ending of the film, he actually says it, but he says it in Spanish, and it's one of the only parts that you get like a subtitle in the film. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But, I mean, I must ask Sal. Demographically, you're a Hispanic individual, right?
Yeah.
How do you say Imperious Rex in Spanish?
You know, properly, I'm not sure.
I don't even think there's a fucking thing for that. I'm literally looking it up right now, dude, because like there ain't no way this gets it. Um, they say this is so weird. Imperious Rex is Rey del Imperio,
Ah,
which that does not sound heroic to scream that
at
shit
all.
out in a fucking war scene. But but yes, there are in the idea of being a comic book fan and having it to where you get to actually hear this character yell out his battle cry. it's there in the film, and I do believe it's twice. One, when he's about to do a bad thing to someone, and then of course at the very end, there's like this fucking, I'll never get it out of my head. He has a Captain America, I could do this all day moment, right? And it's him and Shuri at the end, and they're staying at each other. And all of a sudden, he's like there, and he just starts picking up his hands like that dude in Spider-Man, Flash. I wouldn't want to fight me either, man.
Oh.
And that's when he says it. That's when he fucking says it. Like, and to me, it looks so stupid. Like that scene just looks dumb. It's like a super. It's like this close to the shot, and he just like. And then he says Imperious Rex in Spanish, and I was like, fuck out of here, dude. That's so dumb. Like, he's got to scream it. He doesn't just whisper it to get, like, some emotional gratitude from it. Like, no, he's got to scream that shit. George also says, Rex Imperioso. Is that how he says it in the film? That sounds a little bit better, but that just sounds silly as fuck, too, man.
Dude,
it's just, to me, it's so weird. The transition from being a character that's based primarily on Greek and Roman culture to be pushed into Spanish culture.
Yeah.
Like even Namor, the name is just Roman backwards. Him having wings on his feet is because of based on the god of Apollo, the god of speed. It was just that he was like Hermes, I'm sorry, where he like can bounce in the sky because he's supposed to be like a person that flies and can deliver stuff. That was where it like whole came from, is that he can like fly through the air. So they gave him these wings on his feet. Like it's just really weird. Vince asks, if Namor is in the Avengers Secret Wars, maybe we get a variant of Namor and a variant is Luke Evans. Oh, I really doubt it.
Well,
there's just a lot of doubt in it now.
Well, I've got a question about that, but before I go there, one of the things I had heard was that they had gotten some people that spoke, I guess, Aztec or Mayan. I can't remember which one, but they actually rapped in that language.
Yeah, there's if you go on YouTube and you look up the videos of the premiere in Mexico, you get to see the artist. It's this really skinny guy. And then there's a guy that shows up with his parents. That was really, really nice. Showed up with his parents. His parents are still wearing like the Mesoamerican, still like the cool hat, like the colorful Mexican garb and all that stuff. And those are the people that grew up in the culture that they still to this day speak of the Mayan language.
Yeah, and I heard the music was really that they made a point, like if we're gonna do this, let's do this.
Let's do it right.
Yeah,
that was what really impressed me the most, is that they really, really imbued themselves into the culture of the Central and South American culture of Mexico a lot. In fact, it's even like, I mean, it's very prominent in the film when they're doing like certain scenes in certain parts of Mexico, Peru, and like all this other stuff. It's just so good. It's beautiful that they're kind of pushing the narrative into that direction. And I mean, what's super crazy to me is we get this introduction to where they're finally using Hispanic and Spanish artists and characters and all of this stuff. And even knowing that Namor's character is such like a dick, like, cause that's really all he is in the comics too. He's just like a big dickhead. Like it's either he's a good guy, but the next day he's gonna flood your swimming pool at home because he's just an asshole. You know what I mean? Like it's just what he does. He's not like a good guy nor a bad guy. He's just a guy that's an asshole. Like, and to know that they kind of portrayed this very well in the film too, with Namor being like, where like he will do whatever it takes as long as his people are okay. Like he doesn't even give a shit. Like at the ending of the film, it just seems like he's such a wuss, where he's like, yeah, dude, like we're good, man. He tells his like his cousin Namora, yeah, we're good as long as we're protected. They got to go through them first. Like it's totally fine. I don't even want to fight. Like I'm totally down here just painting shit, and I don't even want to be bothered, man. So it's even better. Like he just turns into this huge pussy at the end. Like not to be rude, but like just turns into this big wuss. And yeah, like it's just his character's just really weird, but like it's so good to see how many of like Latin America have come to praise Tenoch Huerta for his opportunity, and all of the people like the Namora character and Of course, the other big guy, I forgot his fucking name off the top of my head. The big villain guy, the big built guy that's also a Namor guy. Namor's squad. I'll put
It's not Atuma, right?
Atuma. Yeah, there you go. Fuck, I totally forgot that shit. Atuma. Yeah, it was really cool to see them in live action, and then to see those actors and them get acknowledgement for their hard work. And even like you said, like that you heard this, that there's a rapper or a singer that speaks in Mayan and raps in Mayan, and they have them in the story. And it's like, dude, like, when have we ever heard anybody talk about this? I guarantee that rapper dude's been around for years.
Yeah.
Like, no one's given a shit until now. And that's
Until
where
now.
I'm kind of like, hey, you know what? Like, yeah, us comic book guys can be like, nah, I don't like the fact that they did it. Like, it's weird because of the legacy character, and we don't like them to change that too much. But like, now people know who that rapper is because they just did this one little thing.
Yeah, like it pushes us forward.
Yes.
You know, and that's at the end of the day, that's what you want to see.
Yep.
You
That's
know,
kinda
proper
like, to me,
representation.
even like a lot of the people that are in the film that are very Indio based in Mexico, like the culture of the Indios, like the ones that are still like the people who live in the mountains and the villages and things like that. Like a lot of those people are kind of like, I mean, beforehand, I don't know if it's like that right now, especially after the movie. Those cultures were kind of like made fun of that because they're like that kind of like weird, like almost like the Mormons or like the weird culture of people that are like super highly religious or something that a lot of like the normies or a lot of the people that are in the in crowd, the fresa style, kind of be like, I no, get away from me or whatever. Like you know, they treat them they used to treat them bad, but this gives them like, it puts them in a light where kind of like you respect it more, you appreciate the culture.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what you want. I mean, like, for once, some respect, you know, or we're not just used to poke fun at or anything. We're like, it's a legit, recognition.
Mm-hmm. And that's really nice, man. What else do you got involved for the Black Panther? I know you're gonna go watch it tomorrow. What else did you have your questions about before you go out there, and what are you waiting for and stuff?
I mean, I guess I'm just kind of going into it a little more open-minded. I was waiting for Doctor Doom, but I
Mhm.
hear he doesn't come out, and which is
No.
still good. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want a good movie, a good story. You know, um, I don't expect it to stay faithful to the comics because, like I said, it's almost like it's its own universe. So you kind of can't bitch and moan about, well, it doesn't follow the comics. Well, at the same time, it's kind of hard movie wise to follow the comics.
Yes.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Hey, today we're gonna make a movie from issue 174 all the way to 201.
Yeah,
Like
it's got
it,
to be adapted in some way, and there's so many other little crims and crammies that come in that they have to be initiated into the film too, from other comic books, like other what is it like side stories and stuff of other characters that are doing other things and stuff. And then of course they're building on into phase 5 and phase 6, which of course will bring me into my next conversation piece with you. So far, how have you felt about phase 4, Marvel phase 4? Now, Marvel phase 4, I'll break it down real quick. We're talking about Black Widow, Shang-Chi, The Eternals, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, of course, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and then our TV titles, which are WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Marvel, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and Werewolf by Night. These are
okay,
all the different these are all the different things that have come out in phase 4. How do you feel about phase 4 so far? Or I mean, it's already ended. I think the last thing that we're gonna get is the Christmas Guardians of the Galaxy thing, which I think is silly as fuck, but okay.
the Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
I look, and I've been pretty just flat out, and I've said it. I really could have done without Miss Marvel. I mean, I get the significance after we just talked about,
Mhm.
the culture and stuff. I get it. but just even comic wise, I just never found her interesting, you know? But because I don't think that character is aimed towards somebody my age, you
Okay.
know? I think it's aimed more towards the younger generation, which is fine, you know? Black Widow, I just really had no, I'm like, why are we seeing this now? She's already dead. Like, shouldn't we have seen this in the, phase three or
Phase three.
before she died? I mean, because at this point, I mean, if I already know if I already know the ending of the movie, why am I going to watch it? I already know what happened.
Okay.
So there's no point in me watching it before. She-Hulk, I actually liked. Eternals, I could have done without.
Mhm.
Um, Shang-Chi actually surprised me. I really loved a lot of the, what went on in it, and the story. I wasn't a big fan for the rings because each ring was kind of more like, at least from what I remember, it was kind of like the Green Lantern. Each ring
Each one of
had
them
a,
has a specific power.
yeah, and so I was like, okay, well that's not what this is showing. This is great again, going off of what the comics is and almost just redoing the whole like origin. Like forget what you saw there. This is what it is. So you just kind of have to take it for what it was. Um, but really, the only ones that and again, it's Eternals. For some reason, and maybe it's the writing, but for whatever reason, dude, Eternals, as much as Marvel tries to make it relevant, cannot. And they've got some decent. It's kind of like the Inhumans, dude. They just for some reason cannot make it relevant. People don't care. There's not enough interest in it. I mean, if you sit back and look at it, what part does the Eternals play in phase three or in phase four or even going forward? Where is it that you're like, you know what, we do need that team, that movie, because if not, the rest of the MCU doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it makes it kind of weird. I know that more than likely what they're going to do with the Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings and the things that are coming up is they're all going to probably be like weapons of Kang, because I know that Kang's character had this armory of weapons that were like a library of things that he had collected throughout the years that belonged to several heroes. So like even with the idea of like Shang-Chi's 10 rings, yes, in the comic books, each one of them had like a purpose, like the way very close to the way that the stones were on the Infinity Stones.
Yeah,
And of course the Green Lanterns, because each one of them has like a specific power set. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the 10 rings were established by like Fing Fang Foom. They were like a weapon that were part of like a spaceship or something that he had flown into Earth on. And what's his name? Fu Manchu, or what, the original
oh
the Mandarin, right? His name was Fu
yeah, the
Manchu.
Mandarin.
Yeah, the original one. He kind of like stumbled across the ship and took the rings for himself, and that's where he became the Mandarin. But in the MCU, they kind of took it differently, where they just made it to where it's these things that he puts on, and he's able to do just a bunch of random shit with. Like it really doesn't really establish like what the fucking Ten Rings can do. It feels powers, it feels your emotions, it feels your good intentions. It's either blue, it's either orange. Like it changes with whatever character. It's like a mood ring or whatever. Um, but I kind of feel like at the end when he's talking to what's his Miss Marvel. I'm sorry, Premiere. I'm sorry. I know you're messaging, and I'm trying to check out your channel to see what's up. We don't want to be rude, but thank you for jumping into the conversation. Jump in with us and let us know. I wanted to say this real quick. It's a good question because I never get asked this too much. What came first, DC or Marvel? Now, I would say DC first came first, but it wasn't DC. It was like Action Comics. It was like something first. Detective Comics. Oh, Detective Comics, right? It was the ones that had like Batman before and all that other stuff. But off the top of my head, I really can't tell you because not really like an old school practitioner of the historian of comic books of that far back. Like me
Actually,
myself.
yeah, I mean, overall, DC released first, and then just like I think a couple of months later, Marvel released.
Yeah, Marvel released. Um, but yeah, thank you for jumping in the chat, Premiere. Ask more questions if you like, and let us know what's up in the chat, and we'll hit you up, man, for sure. Now what was I talking about? Going back to what we were talking about? I fucking
Shang-Chi.
Oh, Shang-Chi, right? I believe his 10 rings are going to be like the reason why it's giving off some type of beep is it's going to be like to let Kang know like where in the universe his toys are. So like he'll know like what time period like those rings are emitting like powers and stuff. So like when he's out, like when he gets out of the quantum realm, which is going to happen in Ant-Man, I think that's where like that's what brings him to our world in the first place.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I mean because that's the only thing is like the bangles that they have in Miss Marvel, the rings, they all kind of perpetrate this idea that it's either celestial technology or like the Eternals that created it with like all the rings and stuff. But like even you've seen the Quantum Realms trailer, right?
Yeah.
So like the Quantum Realms trailer, when when all those circles come up around his thing, I think that's his ship that's called like the sword of Demetrius or the dude that it was the king that said you could die on your sword to show that you're a hero or a villain. The Achios. I don't know if you remember that story in mythology or in Spartan theory or whatever. But it's like his ship is. I think that's what he's trying to do in Quantum Mania. I think he's trying to power his ship that's called the Sword of Demetrius or something like that. Like that's what I think he's trying to do. Like that's my whole thing. And in that's like his the ship itself is what he uses to conquer worlds. Because like when he lands it on planets or whatever, it has like some kind of like either like a drill or like a laser or something that like automatically wipes out the planet. And that's why he's able to do so much damage like super fast. Like that's the cool thing. Like Kang as a villain, I didn't know how it was gonna work. Because if there's one thing I think the comic books get wrong is that time travel is really confusing in the comic books. Like multiversal, time dimension, Eobard-Thawne. Like nobody gets this shit right. You either run him back in time and you create this really cool character, and then it's like, cool, we fucked up the timeline. Now what? You know what I mean? And Kang, it got so silly that it was like Kang versus Kangs. And then they were like, all the Kangs got together at a Walmart and went to go buy toilet paper during the coronavirus. And then they like fucking got together at a library to talk about what they're going to do to deal with the other 7 million Kangs that are meeting at IHOP. Like it got super fucking stupid. But it's when they start to isolate them and they put it to where it's just like one guy who's dealing with like different variations of himself that are incapacitated or have put themselves, it's just him in different scenarios. I think they handle it way better. And that's my biggest concern is if they're going to do like the what is it? The Council of Kangs.
Yeah.
Like are they if Marvel in the films does a Council of Kangs, I walk out of the theater. Like just straight up because he's gonna what does he do? He wipes him and Mortis and they wipe out all of the Kangs at that moment. But in the theory of time travel and all this stuff, like the moment he thought of that, it created another Kang because it was a you know what I mean? Like you can kill off a million, you're still gonna have a million other ones because it's just they're based off of the idea of you making a choice. And you make choices every day. Just waking up creates a choice. You know what I mean? Like so I don't like that theory. I hate Kang as a fucking character. I just need to know what they're gonna do. So so far, what have you thought about Marvel Phase 4? Like for what it's done with the stories, like what's been your favorite and what's been your not so favorite?
My favorite, believe it or not, was Werewolf by Night. I really liked I just kind of liked the way they went with everything, and seeing Man Thing in it was actually pretty cool. I didn't expect to see him like that. It was almost like a puppy, you know. But I mean, I really liked that one. Uh, my only issue with the whole thing, and I don't know if it's because it's a Disney thing, because a lot of the stuff that they're trying to follow, honestly, is not really Disney related, like Disney vibes.
Okay.
It's a little more hard hitting, a little more adult oriented. You know,
Hmm.
so you like you have to tone it back from what's in the comic, obviously, and it kind of takes away from
The
the
intensity of the
story.
character.
Yeah, it just kind of like like I believe it or not, I did like Spider-Man, No Way Home.
Okay.
I did, you know Doctor Strange. I was expecting a little more horror, a little more dark, but again, it's a Disney owned property.
Okay. Yeah, you're
So
right. You're right.
how far because
How
you
far
gotta
can you take
admit,
it?
dude, if they would let Doctor Strange get really into it, I mean, with the shit he has to deal with, can you imagine, dude, what that horror movie would look like?
Oh yeah, it'd be super crazy, man. I mean, there's a lot of the occult that's based in that comic. So
Yeah,
just having that just sounds super crazy.
and I think this kind of stresses that point. When the incursions were happening, that Doctor Strange was like, you know, when he went up there to talk to the witches, and he was like, "I'm gonna give you my soul, give me the power to stop the incursions." For them to tell him, "You have no soul to give. You've already given. You've given it all."
Hmm.
So can you imagine how much dark stuff he must have? The stories that are out there, dude, and that's because they've cut him back a lot. I mean, when he first came out, dude, he had a spell for everything.
Everything. Well,
And
that was
now,
like in the recent film, right? What is it? Multiverse of Madness. He jumps out of the window in the very beginning and then literally has a spell for like dealing with a Shumagorath like throughout the entire street. Like just he doesn't even have to say anything. He just wiggles his hands and a fucking giant cat face comes out, smashes
yeah,
and kills a whole ass car of people. Then he fucking tears the bus apart, puts it back together, fucking fires a buzz saw. Like he's firing just everything, chains and I mean, there are some things that us as the reader of strange comic books that we want to see, like the Chains of Sidorak. I think every time he pulls out chains, everyone's like, "Oh, Chains of Sidorak!" and fucking
yeah,
Sidorak's in the Marvel Universe, Juggernaut, and yeah, it was a fucking. Yeah, I mean, we're all about that shit. But yeah, like there's sometimes it's kind of like a Mary Sue, like he just happens to do some shit and stop some stuff, but then later on, like someone fucking knuckles him in the mouth and he can't do shit about it, and you're kind of like, wait, dude, like you fucking brought a cat out of nowhere and turned yourself into water. Like, why you just gonna get punched in the mouth?
and that's
Like
it.
what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of weird, man. The continuity part just it sometimes doesn't do well.
yeah,
But that's the thing.
because
Like Marvel ends up like we were talking about earlier. I think someone put it in the comment section where they were like, "Man, dude, like Daredevil reborn, like oh fuck, it's gonna be crazy." Like fucking Daredevil, Netflix. You have to understand that Kevin Feige did not like the Netflix series at all. Like he was super against it because of the way that they handled the characters. But people love that shit because they like violence. They don't like the character, they like violence. They like to see superheroes just doing the naughtiest shit. Like that's why The Boys is so successful because people just like naughty shit when it comes to superheroes. If Superman was to come down and punch a hole through Batman's face, that would be the meme for years. Like that everyone would just cherish and be like, that was the greatest Superman moment. And they wouldn't even care about all the other cool shit he's done in his whole life. Like it's just they like the dirty, nasty stuff that these characters do. But
see, but
Daredevil's not
then
going to be that way.
see, I love the Netflix series, dude. The
They're
Daredevil
good.
one,
They're
yeah, because
gritty.
you saw him progress throughout the whole
Mhm.
thing, and he wasn't. I mean, he took an ass beating, and you go through it as he's learning what he's doing, you
Mhm.
know, and like I like seeing him in the Spider-Man, the She-Hulk. I was a little iffy because I mean he didn't really do much. It was he went from being such a good character in the Netflix series to a piece of ass in the She-Hulk, you know?
Yeah, of
And
course. It is like I said, he's like a giant rubbery fucking played sex toy for She-Hulk in that story.
yeah, and so you're just kind of sitting there, dude, and don't even get me started on what Scar looked like. I thought Scar was dressed up as Shrek. I was
It was
like,
stupid, man. I mean, they've destroyed the Hulk character through and through. There's no way that they succeed in World War Hulk. I'm telling you right now. No way
see,
they succeed in World War Hulk. They want to do World War Hulk. You know that, right?
yeah, but
They
I
fucked every
mean,
opportunity up.
I I don't know, dude, how they started so strong and just kind of like flipped off everybody and said, "Fuck it, we're gonna do it, this
This
way."
way. You want to know what I
Yeah,
think it was? I think it's because when they started off and they started off strong, it's because they didn't think it was going to go this big. I don't think they were like that. They knew it was going to last for the long run. I think it was like kind of like Iron Man. Like they were just putting it out there and like we're taking a chance. Like I don't know if the people are going to like Captain America. He's kind of old school. Like it's not in the times. Like I don't know if they're going to like Black Widow. I don't know if they're going to like these characters. Even Hawkeye. Like who knows if they're going to like it? But I think they just did not anticipate that it was going to go to like the Avengers and then into fucking Thanos, dude. Like you know what I mean? Like when they put him at the end of the Avengers movie, I think they just did that just to make everybody wet. I didn't literally think they were going to bring Thanos out. Like maybe as like a little nod, but not like a whole ass movie about him.
yeah, and which now brings me to Secret Wars.
Yep.
What exactly is Secret Wars going to be about? I mean, they're skipping. I'm hearing, oh, they're gonna do Battle World.
Yeah, I fucking doubt that shit.
I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna do Battle World when you haven't even
Without
gone
Doom.
through the first one?
Yeah, without Doom, without the X-Men, without Fantastic Four, without T'Challa, without fucking Marvel zombies not even being prominent in the live action story. Like, how do you do it?
Hmm.
Like, without Spider-Man, without Miles Morales, without Owen Reese, like they want to do this movie within 6 years, which literally gives us 2 years left. And you tell me you're going to introduce all of those teams within that amount of time? It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not. And can you imagine if they did do a Marvel Zombies, but a real horror? I mean,
Well, imagine this. Just imagine this. For them to make it work, they need the Fantastic Four. They need both Valeria and Nathaniel and the fucking the Future Foundation. They need Mr. Sinister, Apocalypse, and all the X-Men. They need Sword with the chick that's the green-haired chick. I forgot her fucking name.
Abigail Brand.
Abigail, yeah, Abigail something. But she's the one that can speak everybody's thing, and she's in charge of Sword. Which maybe we get her in the Marvels because that'll be when Sword comes out in space. If not, that's going to be what's her face's character in Secret Invasions, the chick
Yeah, Emily
from
Clark.
Game of Thrones, Emily Clark. That's going to be her character. If not, oh, you also need to establish. You need to bring back Red Skull. You need to establish Captain Britain because there's a whole introduction to him when they introduce him to the Wall. You need to have the Age of Ultron story come back. You need to make sure that you have the World War Hulks. You need to have that already established where there's a whole world of Hulks
Yep.
and a Mysterio and a Maestro. You need to have Galactus already established. Like there's 100% no way this happens, dude. 100% no way this happens.
And
The
that's why
Silver
I'm
Surfer
wondering.
2, yeah.
And that's why I'm wondering, like, well, what is Secret Wars going to be about? Like, it like there's no.
I'm gonna take it. I'll take a chance. I'm gonna play with this story. I always do this, and Brian goes, "Man, Chris, you know what? That's the problem is you're not writing the stories because that makes fucking sense." So what I think what happens is this isn't Battle World. What they're gonna do is they're gonna do Secret Wars, but from the 70s or the 80s, way back in the day. But instead of the Beyonder being that person, it's going to be Kang. Kang is going to be the person that's establishing power to all of these people. And in that story, the multiversal saga is going to be that story. is going to be all of these characters established, and what they're going to do is they're going to bring the Fox universe, all the characters, including the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, you know, every one of them. Fucking, you might even get fucking what's his face as Daredevil and that chick as Elektra all over again. If we're not careful, they're gonna bring these fucking people back. We'll get both variations of the Fantastic Four, which is the newer one and the old one. And that's what's gonna make this story where the Beyonder is gonna say, you may even get the fucking Inhumans from the stupid TV show, the one that never worked.
God, I hope not.
Hey, well, I mean, he came back as
Black Bolt.
Then you can explain to me why there were so many people excited to see him come back as Black Bolt when they fucking hated the television show with him and his acting in it. Like, I don't know why the people were like, fuck yeah, we got Black Bolt. Yeah, look, he's an Illuminati and blah, blah. You're fucking posers, dude. Like, I was not excited.
Dude, I
we get
gotta
all of
admit,
these
though,
characters to come back and portray the group of heroes versus villains in that story from the 80s show. And they got to kind of like fight each other to get to the top. I think that's what's cool. And then, of course, you get all your three Spider-Man coming back together. And not only that, like, they're working together and they're already like, oh, hey, what's up, Peter? Hey, what's up, Peter? Hey, what's up, Peter? Like, they already know each other. And all the other heroes are like, how the fuck do you know each other? You know what I mean? Like, and that's when you find out they've already been having the Spider-Verse situation happen between themselves. You don't need any of the newer characters established because all of them are old school characters, which are already been, you even got, what's her fucking name? Titania out of She-Hulk that she can be in it. Yeah, you even got her. So and you have Creel from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show. So there's a bunch of people that you can bring back. Not only that, this gives a really good setup for them to be able to bring Eric Bana, Edward Norton, and Mark Ruffalo back as all three Hulks in that storyline.
See, but I guess that's my question. Like, in the original series, there was no multi-dimensional crossing.
Yes, and that's where I think that's the difference is if they cannot get that character together, like they can't play right, then maybe we get, like, instead of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, like just Eric Bana's Hulk will be in this film. You know what I mean? Like, they'll just have like because what they're going to do, and this is just my theory on how they're going to handle it, because my biggest thought is not what do we do at Kang the Conqueror? It's what do we do past that? Because that's what's going to be the new MCU going forward.
Yeah.
Which after the Kang story, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be where we have mutants, the Fantastic Four, the Inhumans, everyone will be on one planet together. Like, because after the Kang story, everything's going to be unified. That's what I think is going to happen. That's how I think they're going to handle it.
We're supposed to get, I think, Galactus or something like that.
Yeah, which will give you purpose. That'll give you reason, because now you don't need to reestablish the Fantastic Four and do all this other stuff, because from the story of the ending of Battleworld, when everything gets unified and put on a dimension or on its own plane of existence, everything kind of goes back into place.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like the way they're going to take it. That'll be a really great way for them to recast of Thor, if they want to. They can bring in multiple characters to play him. The same thing with like T'Challa's Black Panther, because that's been the biggest concern is a lot of people were pushing for the idea of recasting T'Challa. And now that they had it to where Shuri's back and they did what they've done, there's a lot of time before we get a male Black Panther character back. A lot of time.
I'm surprised it went over so well, dude. There was so many people arguing whether for or against bringing in a new T'Challa. You know, and for this film to still get that reaction, I'm pretty impressed.
I mean, it did really well. What surprised me the most is how it underperformed in the box office. Like it's not up there. I think it's like the second lowest film so far in Phase 4 when it comes to how much money it's made on opening night and to this day.
Wow.
And then not only that, like I'm not really sure why, but they're not showing the film in China. They're not going to allow it. It's banned in China. Yeah, China's fucking difficult to work with sometimes. But I'm guessing that that's also the other reason why they fixated so hard on bringing the film to the South American culture. because I think that it could pick up the opportunity for them to make it worldwide a little bit bigger if they bring in a lot more Hispanic, the Hispanic people from for the theaters.
Yeah,
Will
and
it be
it's
Chinese numbers? I really doubt it. That's like a super overpopulated country. But I think it has the opportunity to make some really good money.
yeah, and
Um,
what they'll probably wind up tweaking whatever it needs to get into the Asian market.
I think so, but China's has it just completely bland, and it hasn't been the first film. I know that Doctor Strange didn't film; they didn't show it in China. There was a couple other films too that didn't go in China. The Eternals, which they did them the favor, not showing that shit in China. China did good not having to watch it, but yeah, there's I've been super surprised. If I'm not mistaken, let me give you the numbers right now for Black Panther. Right now I have Wikipedia up, which probably isn't the best way to go with it, but so far worldwide it's at 400 million, 407 million, which is right above the Eternals, which was 402 million.
Wow.
The biggest film then in phase 4 was of course Spider-Man No Way Home at 1 billion. Did I say billion already? Because the
No.
other ones made 400 million, not billion. Yeah. Okay, just making sure. Spider-Man's the only film that's made 1 billion. Other than that, yeah, it's Black Widow's the lowest, then the Eternals, and then as of right now, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And that's a fucking huge mark, especially for the aspect of it being where the original Black Panther film, man, dude, it crossed that threshold super easy.
Yeah.
You go back to, let's see what the original Black Panther did. Black Panther, yeah, 1,347,000,000. That's a lot of money, man.
Dude,
That's a half, man. They've only made half of what they did. Damn.
we
I
gotta
really hope
admit that was
that. And you know what? What do you think it is though? Like, what do you think it is that kept people away from going to the theaters this time?
well, you gotta remember that was only 1 week. They still have all this week, and they
Yeah,
still
yeah,
got,
and whatnot. I mean, that's understandable. But even
you
with
know,
that, the numbers were lower than Doctor Strange. I mean, like
see,
20% lower than Doctor Strange.
and I think some of it might be that people wanted it recasted and just, you know, they didn't get it their way and they just kind of lost interest. Like,
Lost
look
interest.
at me. I haven't bothered to go,
But you're
you
gonna go
know?
hopefully this weekend.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, like we'll go this weekend, but it's like I wasn't in I personally wasn't enthused to go and watch it, the week it came out,
Mhm.
which I because I wanted to see first, you
The
know,
reactions.
the reaction because I was like, if it's like what it sounds like, I mean, I'm not gonna really care to watch it, you know.
Is there any possibility that you believe in this like superhero fatigue idea that people are starting to fall out of this like desire of continuing to watch this like style of filmmaking where it's just about heroes? Because if you break it down, there's been several large films that have come out recently where they have a tremendous cast and their box office numbers are like dwindled compared to it not being a part of the big three or the big two, either a Marvel franchise movie or a DC franchise movie.
I don't think so. I just think the writing isn't there like it was in the beginning.
Okay.
Because you got to admit, in the beginning, like Iron Man,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we get it. We're not in Vietnam, so you're gonna update it a little bit more to whatever's going on
Mm-hmm.
in Iraq or Iran, Saudi Arabia, wherever it took place. But the story was still pretty much held on to what it originally was.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, same thing. Little differences here and there, but for the most part, it's the same story. But if you notice, as they get further and further along, they start taking more liberties with what the movie is,
Yeah.
you know, and it kind of starts to get away from the comics,
The foundation.
yeah, from what it is, and it just kind of starts to become something. I mean, even you said it. Had you taken out the Marvel name, out of Wakanda, it would have been a good movie on its own, and you kind of wouldn't have known that it was a Marvel movie.
Well, I mean, I'll rephrase it, right? Because it's not out of taking Marvel out of Wakanda. Um, the idea on how they handled the Talocan culture and Namor's culture. I said this last week too, that I feel if this movie about the Mayan culture becoming like aquatic and falling into the water and then doing crazy things to lure people into the ocean and take out pirate ships, like if you would have made that into like a suspense movie or a horror film away from Marvel, and it'd be about a king underwater who's protecting his people from uh I don't know, treasure hunters or just anything that's trying to get into the ocean and destroy his area. I would have been about that movie. I literally would have been. There was just something about it that I was like, fuck, this is so good. It's so intense. It's so scary. The score for the way that they handle when the Atlanteans or the Talocanians, or I don't know what they fucking call them nowadays, but
Yeah,
whenever they come out and their ominous orchestra starts playing their music, you feel it. Like you feel it. You really do. Like you really feel it. It's super cool, man. Super cool. But like I said, it's how Marvel handled it, and it worked fairly well. Of course, it's kind of like being pressured up the idea of that there's 30 to 40 some on years of this character already established in the comic books, and now you're going to come and change like a very major moment in the comic book or the character's life, which alters the entire origin, like the origin of the character itself. It does. It kind of it sucks. It really does, and we've had it happen before. Where I've talked about it before. I'm a big fan of the Gore the God Butcher story and the Thor Love and Thunder Jane Foster. I'm probably one of the only people in the world, like I'm not even lying, that is actually a fan of this story that's right here above my head, which is, the Jane Foster getting cancer, the mighty Thor, and her taking up the mantle of Thor. And there was so many, I got so much slack for that shit, for telling people I thought it was good. And then I tell them the number one thing when it comes to story writing is if that story isn't good or wasn't good and the Jane Foster story sucked, what were they doing with Thor that made him great at the time? Like, tell me, what was Thor's character doing before the Unworthy story and the Jane Foster story? Like, they didn't have him in Civil War because, if you had him in the Hulk, like, that's like a one-sided story.
yeah.
Like, did they put the Hulk in fucking Civil War 2 and then in the fucking Captain Hydra storyline, and he started the whole thing?
Yeah, and Thor just I mean, Thor and Hulk would have.
They would have decimated the entire battlefield. Like they would have killed everybody off. I mean, in fact, they ended up Iron Man and Reed Richards clone Thor, and they bring out this fucking android that's a genetic clone of Thor, and he ends up putting a hole through what's that dude's name? Giant Man, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I forgot his name. It's like Behemoth or something like that.
And Thor comes back and kicks
the shit out of Iron Man for it.
Yeah.
Kicks the shit out of him. He's like, I can't fucking believe you did that. You cloned me, turned me on one of your science experiments. I'm gonna cheese you out. And now fucking Iron Man's dead or whatever.
But because he knew Hulk and Thor would have been on the opposite, they would have been with Captain America.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, they would have decimated. I mean, it wouldn't have mattered who you had on the other side. Mm-hmm. That would have been it.
Yeah, man, it's just it's crazy, and the way that the Marvel MCU is going, it makes it really hard to understand on what's the next possible step. Like as of now, we have, of course, I listed them off. We have, Shang-Chi, She-Hulk. We have Vision, Wanda. They're out in the middle of the nowhere. We have Loki. That's part of like this weird multiversal saga situation. Where do we see Marvel Phase 5 going? Now, before we talk about this, I want to kind of like at least give us an idea of what it is that we have listed for Marvel Phase 5. So that way we at least have an understanding of what's coming, right? So let me see if I got this. Okay. So right now, as of listing for Phase 5, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We have the Marvels. We have Captain America: New World Order. Can't believe they stayed with that name. That's so wild. Thunderbolts and Blade, which has been one of the most anticipated scary ideas in a long time, because even Mashallah Ali is having a lot of fucking problems with the way they're handling that film.
Yeah, aren't they looking for a new director?
Yeah, they just fucking fired. I didn't know who it was. It was like not Kevin Feige, but it was like Sam Raimi, or they were gonna bring in Sam Raimi for that one too. But they were like, nah, fuck that guy, leave him out of here. I saw what he did with Doctor Strange. He shit on that. Fuck that guy. Where do we put that? I mean, because knowing with what we just ended with Phase 4, being that Black Panther was the end. Now we're coming into all of these characters, minus the Thunderbolts and Blade, that are like these the cosmic style characters, like cosmic beings. We got Guardians of the Galaxy, which is going to introduce Adam Warlock, who is really late to the game when it comes to the Marvel universe, especially after the Infinity Gauntlet.
Which surprised me. I was like, he was one of the main guys.
Yeah, he is. Like, yeah, him and the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
We have, of course, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is going to introduce, of course, Kang. It's going to introduce some other characters too, I bet. I don't know who. MODOK is going to be one of them. So that's really interesting, right? The Marvels, they'll have to introduce some characters, which I'm guessing they're going to introduce my personal favorite, Blue Marvel. They do need some type of character that, I mean, it sounds weird, but they do need guy characters. We still need guy superheroes in there somewhere. Like somewhere at least. And I think Blue Marvel would be a great introduction to the Marvel universe right now. But I don't know if that works, because everybody already flies and shoots laser beams and does strong shit. Like, you would need to pull Blue Marvel into another series that he's not just one of the other ones. You know what I mean?
Well, do you think they're gonna? Because you got a lot of the ones from the Young Avengers. You're just missing Hulkling and one other one, I can't remember who. And you pretty much have
Enchantress, I guess.
You've got the Young Avengers out there already.
Yeah, but I think, well, my thing is, I think the Young Avengers come in Kang Dynasty, like literally the Avengers Kang Dynasty. I think they're gonna be one of the teams that comes in for that Secret Wars thing, and no one's gonna know that they were supposed to be there. Like, no one sees like, oh, why are you inviting the children out to fight? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then everyone's gonna they're gonna do what they did with the Champions in the comics, where all of the heroes that have been established in all these teams, you have the Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Inhumans, everybody's doing their shit. But in the process of doing it, they always have that Civil War moment where they constantly destroy the places they're trying to save the most out of, because they're so destructive when it comes to their battles. And then they end up having to do this big old cleanup at the end where everybody's got to, but most of the time, the Avengers and everybody just bounce out and they leave like Damage Control or someone else to pick up the slack, right?
Yeah.
In the Champions comic books, they made it to where like the heroes came in and stopped the situation, but they destroyed a part of the city. And the kids, the Young Avengers at the time, but they were called the Champions, came in and where they were like, yo, look at what you did. You adults suck. Like, you're all pieces of shit. Look at what adults did. Like, you adults are stupid, and we're going to start our own group and do it better. And it just turned into like a weird, like teeny bopper bullshit, like comic book that no one really cared for. But I read it because Amadeus Cho was in it, and I was really pushing to give Amadeus Cho's Totally Awesome Hulk a fucking chance.
God, I hated that guy.
Fuck, dude. It was so hard to like it was so hard to like. The only thing that I liked about that story was one part, which was the story when they're mourning the death of Bruce Banner, which is where Hawkeye shoots him in the eye or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And it's the entire Avengers roster shows up. Like, Captain Marvel like just keeps hounding Amadeus Cho. They all show up to Amadeus Cho's house and they're like, oh, hey, what's up, Cho? Like, you're the Hulk now. Like, and we notice you're mad and You know, we're just making sure you're not gonna go crazy and go planet Hulk busting on it. And he's like, well, I am mad because you killed my best friend and you let Hawkeye go and said he wasn't guilty. But I'm a fucking genius. Like, you don't think I know how to handle this shit? Like, and there's a lot of like really cool. The art and it's so beautiful. But at the very end, there's a part where Amadeus Cho turns into the Hulk and he just jumps and he's wrecking and slamming the floor and all this stuff. And Sword is watching him and keeping tabs. And they call in, of course, Carol Danvers, the fucking savior of mankind or whatever the fuck she is in whatever fucking universe or whatever. And they're there and they're like, oh, Danvers, like Amadeus Cho's on the loose and he's fucking in the wild. And she's like, do I need to go down there and beat the shit out of him or whatever? And they're like, well, he's not really attacking anyone. He's going crazy, but it's like in the desert and all this shit. And what the fuck is he doing? Is he trying to start a tremor? And then all of a sudden it gets to the last panel and he drew a big finger to the Sword camera, like with him running around. It was so fucking funny. It's like he knew and he was letting him know that he knows they're watching him. But he just put like a big fuck you, like Carol Danvers on the floor. And I thought it was fantastic. And I was like, oh, dude, it's going to be a good storyline. That's pretty funny. Like, this guy's in control. We'll see how it goes. And then they just shit on it. They just send him on stupid adventures. He's fighting stupid characters. He's like helping Fing Fang Foom blow his nose or whatever the fuck Marvel was doing with the kids' comic book lines. It was not good. It wasn't good. It was a good opportunity, but it wasn't good. But yeah, then they do like a eulogy and a ceremony where they tell all of like the Hulk's warbound characters. They leave him like his will and testament, and Scar's there, and Scar still wears his loincloth and sword. And I'm like, dude, you're on Earth, bro. You're not even on like a fucking third world planet, or I don't know what the fuck it is. Like, you can wear normal clothes now. So yeah, it's really weird. It's a really weird storyline.
I liked him just as Amadeus Cho. Once he became the Hulk, that for me was like, I gotta
Amadeus
get out of
Cho,
here.
he's an interesting character. I mean, but then again, like, he's in that line where he was like a child genius. And right now, I think the MCU, for what it's worth, is trying to perpetrate. Of course, they're pushing a lot of like the female characters. So a lot of like the smarter, even right now, I don't know if you know, like 2 months ago, they established that Reed Richards has like a stepsister, and she's like smarter than him.
Yeah, like, but everybody seems to start being smarter than him. You got her, Valeria, Doctor Doom, and then that chick that writes with Devil Dinosaur.
Oh, Moon Girl.
Yeah, I fucking
She's
hate that little girl.
She's the smartest of all of them, dude. And she's an Inhuman.
And see, but the thing is, now they're saying, well, she's like the third smartest. Valeria's the smartest. Then it's Reed Richards. Then it's Doctor Doom, and I'm just like,
I'm tired of whoever the smartest. I don't even give a shit anymore.
Yeah, I'm
like a title that's like anybody can say nowadays.
You know, and I'm like, what, like what do I want to watch a little girl and a dinosaur going around? Like, what do I care?
You know what? But like that goes off of the idea on how the Miss Marvel show maintained its views. Like, that would be established for like, we have to understand that there has to be like some type of like kids like storylines. And I think Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur do very well with like a very young generation. Like, that would be like in the Disney kids cartoon realm. Like, which one would you rather see? Would you rather see, like, if you have, I mean, you have kids, but they're already like teens at least, or you have a younger one that's, what is he, like 11, 12?
12.
Yeah. I mean, what would you rather him see? Would you rather him see like a kid's version of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur? Or would you like to see Deadpool 2 with him? Or Deadpool 1, because that's where they have the anal scene. Like, which one would you prefer for your child to be introduced to Disney?
Yeah.
And I think Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, I think it would be a better like animated style film, which is somewhere where I think that Marvel and Disney, they need to kind of put their cash into, because to me, a lot of the Marvel animated series are very weak. They're very weak. You look at DC's animated stories and they're fucking awesome.
You know, that's one of the things, at least a while back, we would always talk about how Marvel has the upper edge on the movies, but as far as the cartoons and that, DC just blows them out of the water.
Yep. And that's the thing that I think that's like a missing prospect for Marvel, because I mean, you're you're associated with the biggest name in children's entertainment. And right now, your films that work with adults and teenagers and kids too, because kids want to be superheroes, but you're
Yep.
lacking the opportunity to create these awesome visuals, and you're connected to Pixar, Toy Story and all. You have a huge opportunity to make awesome films, like awesome kids films. I think that's a huge missed opportunity for him.
It is.
What else, man? What else would you like to cover? I know that you said you ran into a good friend of ours, David Alanis, earlier. And you guys were talking about some stuff also.
Yeah, we were going over the Black Adam movie.
Oh,
Finally
yeah,
got
yeah.
around to watching it.
What'd you think?
I liked it, but it was, it's
Oh,
dude,
what's
it,
that
it,
about?
it's rare that you'll ever hear me say this, but I was like, maybe they should have, for the type of movie they made, maybe Michael Bay should have been the one that they should have got in there, for all the explosions, all
All
the
the
fight
explosions.
scenes.
I
That's
mean,
like,
for what it's worth, I mean, a lot of people were coming in and they were like, "Oh man, it's just going to be another Rock movie." And in some way, like the Hulk, or not the Hulk, the Rock does always portray this one character that's always the same in every movie. But I don't know, man. I was happy with the way that he portrayed Black Adam.
so was I. I mean, it's and with him because he makes a lot of cheesy movies, but his it's like my wife said, it's his persona
Mm-hmm.
that sets it,
Yep.
and
I think he was built for that role. That's kind of like a Deadpool moment in life, like a Ryan Reynolds Deadpool
yeah,
situation. Like he did fairly well. I mean, the story is mediocre. It's calm. It's very safe. But I thought it was probably one of the best stories that DC has put out in a while.
it is. And I was wondering what I mean, and maybe you've heard this that he took the Black Adam role with the expectations of being able to kind of set up the DCU going
Going
forward.
forward.
So he wanted that's the whole reason he brought back Henry Cavill. So he kind of felt a little jilted when they gave it to James Gunn.
Mhm.
And from what I'm reading, because I'm not there, I don't know that him and James Gunn are butting heads.
The Rock and James Gunn.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
because they both have an idea of where they want not just the universe, but that character to go. And I mean,
Oh,
that's
where
why The
like he
Rock,
wants Black Adam to go.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I get
and
you. I get you.
it just doesn't seem that they're meshing. And but again, I don't know. I don't know what the terms were. I don't know what the deal was, but it was supposed to be something where he was going to have like control of. He was going to be sitting where James Gunn is sitting,
Yeah, that's
and
like we were talking about that last week, where Brian was mentioning that. Yeah, there was this idea that The Rock was going to be offered the opportunity to be like the Kevin Feige, but then
yeah,
they ended up giving it to James Gunn after his success with Suicide Squad, right? They kind of had him in there, and it's like one of those things. Like, well, who do you go with? Do you go with the guy who acts in movies and creates fucking Walking Tall in the Fast and the Furious 28 and all this shit, or do you go with the guy who created Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and now 3? He also then revamped your Suicide Squad film and made it better than the first. And what do you do? Like, who do you go with? Do you go with the guy who makes stories, or do you go with the guy who just acts in films? I don't know how it goes where The Rock, where I guess the only thing would be like The Rock is very resourceful. Like, I think he can literally call up any human being on the planet and everyone has his back.
yeah,
So like you look at Yamada, the guy that was running DC, and Henry Cavill didn't want to fucking work for him. He was just being super difficult at the time, or whatever they want to say. Fucking Rock calls up Henry Cavill and they have a beer together, and Henry Cavill shows up in his fucking movie. Something that, nobody ever thought they were going to see again.
yep.
Like Yamada, the dude who was in charge of DC, couldn't even get that done. Could James Gunn have got that done? I don't know. I really don't know. like to me, it's one of those things. Like I am excited to see James Gunn, even though I don't like the guy. I'm excited for him to take over DC and produce alongside the guy that he's with, David Sokolov, or I forgot the other guy he's going to produce with or direct with. But it's not the
I
fact because I want to see James Gunn do some shit because I don't give a fuck what that guy does. I think he's a huge piece of shit. Um, it's the fact that DC will finally be taken care of. Like I want DC to be in better hands, not just the millionaires who were running it in the first place. That were like, we don't care what we put out, we just want to make money. I want it. I
yeah
want it to be in the hands of someone who is like, you know what? No, I love these stories. I grew up reading them, and they should be films. Like they should be films. Let me make these films for you because I know what I want to see. Um, do I want it to be? No, I don't want it to be like fucking Zack Snyder's because I think Zack Snyder's story that he fucking said that he wanted to do about the future, I thought that was stupid as fuck. Which was like Lois cheats on Clark with Bruce. They have a baby. Superman's mad, helps him raise his like fuck, dude. What are you doing, man? Like just that already alone, like already just sounds like fucking trash. Like, why would you want to be a part of that? Like, first off, comic book fan, someone tells you they're gonna write a story that Lois cheats on fucking Clark. How do you feel?
yeah you're like that's not happening.
You just know that's like the staple of not. It's not the staple of just those two characters. That's like the soul of the DC universe, like the love story. That's like that's the couple that's always there. Fucking Kingdom Come was entirely about that. Fucking Injustice was about that. Now you're gonna tell me you're gonna have a world where it's like, oh yeah, well Lois decided to bang, fucking Booster Gold or Blue Beetle, and I'm gonna be like, fuck out of here, dude. Like nobody wants to read that shit. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, man. It's for what Zack Snyder was doing. I don't know why people were fighting for it for so much. I think it was because he had the balls to just take it that far.
Well, I liked his version more than I liked the one we got.
Oh, from
But
what's his name? The Marvel guy, Whedon,
yeah,
the Whedonverse.
yeah, Josh Whedon.
Yeah, I mean he dealt with the shit that he got, and fuck that guy too because apparently he treats people like shit. Like, and he's very womanizing or whatever. So screw that guy. But yeah, man. I just like I said, I just want DC to be taken care of. I want it to be in better hands. And between The Rock and James Gunn, it could have gone either way. James Gunn's cool, so oh yeah, George is like, hey, Blue Beetle is an alien, so I mean that's Lois to sing, man. Yeah, no kidding. And I'm excited for the Blue Beetle movie. It looks like it's pretty good.
Yes,
It looks really, really sharp that they're going with the costume and they're not messing around. And they're bringing in that Miguel kid from Cobra Kai, which
Cobra
is cool as
Kai.
hell too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
What are you excited for coming up in the Marvel universe and DC stuff, man? What are you excited? You want to see Ezra Miller come in and be like everybody, or what?
Fuck no, I fucking hate Ezra Miller.
Dude, I don't know what
Fuck
they're gonna
that
do with that
guy.
guy.
I was like, what are you doing, dude? Like,
Fuck, I
even
don't know what
when
they're gonna do with that cat at all, man. That
when
guy's life is just complete trash, man.
when they first got him, I didn't think he fit the role at all.
But he
He
was
did
funny
all
though.
right.
Yeah, he
Uh-huh.
was funny though.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Barry's not like that, but he's not to that extent. Like
Yeah, he's
he
not like
made
stupid silly.
yeah, and they made him look like a wuss.
Yeah.
Yet like I don't know how to fight. I can't do this. I can't do, and it's like that's not how Barry is. Why would you do that?
I do like the fact that you know what, I'm not really that big of like not a fan of him's because the one thing that I wasn't a fan of is that he's supposed to be like this hyper genius dude, right? Supposed to be super smart, which is like same thing with Spider-Man. But they always make him so dumb in these films that you can't even tell he's supposed to be like somewhat of a genius. So like when they brought him out in Batman, or not in Batman, but when he tags along with Batman and stuff, you get the idea that he's like a scientist.
Yeah,
But then he gets to the Batcave and he sees a car and he sees some computers and he's like blown away by it. And I don't know if he's blown away by it because the technology is super advanced, or he's blown away by it, but the guy can actually like afford this kind of money. Like if he has that kind of money to just like make stupid shit, because all that stuff has got to be like under him when it comes to the way that he thinks. Like it's just got to
yeah,
be like, oh, this shit's like baby stuff with what I've created, but cool. You got a car that looks like a bat or whatever. Like That's what I would associate it with.
Yeah, and it just like I said, it wasn't the worst choice at the time, I guess,
Yeah.
but it just I was like, uh,
So I have to ask this then, like on the cusp of like the Wakanda Forever movie with how they handled the Chadwick Boseman T'Challa situation and not recasting. How do you feel about the Flash film? That's been the biggest talking point for me and Brian too. That's been our biggest debate is where we're like, should they recast the Flash or should they show this movie and continue on and see what they could do with Ezra Miller? Because right now I think Ezra Miller's like thinking about doing like 20 years in prison or I don't know what the fuck he's doing anymore. But like, what do you do? Like, do you trash the movie, throw it away after the $1 million you spent on it,
I
and bringing in fucking Michael Keaton and all this stuff?
I would, dude. I would just recast because you're not gonna have him there anymore. After this, he's gone anyways.
Yeah. So, and who do you want to recast him with?
I know we can't, but believe it or not, dude, Grant Gusterson just won me over. I think he did
He's
really
amazing, man.
well. And
He's done a fucking phenomenal job as the television show The Flash.
yeah, and I mean, I would continue his, to be honest.
He's done an amazing role. And you know what was really cool is I tell people all the time, for what DC did with the DC crossover television show, when they actually brought Ezra Miller out in the show and they meet each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if did you get to see that?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that was like the coolest moment. And then they filmed the scene with the same camera, the same LUTs, and the same effects as they do the Snyderverse. So it's done in the same format. Ezra Miller literally showed up to the set and filmed it with him. But what was even cooler than that was the fact that Ezra Miller's Barry Allen was not called the Flash yet. He was actually given the name the Flash by Grant Gustin's Flash.
Oh, nice.
Like, so
I didn't realize that.
He wasn't even going by the Flash. So that's why when he's like, oh, you're this world's Flash. And he's like, the Flash. And he's like, the Flash. Like, because then he gets his name, which is so cool to know that the nod of the helmet would have been in the films, the major films. The Flash from that universe got it from Flash, the TV show. There's a connection there. So when he shows up and starts calling himself the Flash, you know that Grant Gustin's the Flash gave it to him. You know what I mean? That's so cool. But then even knowing that his character got his name in the Speed Force in a different dimension is even cooler.
Yeah.
Like it's like a paradox. Like his name's a paradox.
Now, what would you do? Would you recast him or would you just keep rolling? Or
100% recast him. But I would do it to where I would at least bring in Miller to finish out the scene, have his character die off, and pass the mantle to the next Flash. Like I would need to have him have a solidified ending. I wouldn't want it to be where they just be like, oh, we made this movie, we're just gonna Brandon Lee or face on all of these dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he'd do that though.
Well, I mean,
because he had written out a whole bunch of stuff for another Flash movie already.
And yeah, and that's what I think he's doing right now. I tell people like this, it's him living the reverse Flash role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when the film comes out, they're actually going to have footage of his character, the Flash, run into this world. And he's going to see that himself, he's not Barry Allen. He's this person named Ezra Miller. And he's like a fucking fiend. He's like a menace to society. And he's going to be like, oh, I need to get out of this. This is like a nightmare world. And then he just runs back and turns back into Barry Allen. And then Ezra Miller goes crazy in real life and believes himself to be the actual Barry Allen. That's what I thought was going to happen. I mean, it's kind of far-fetched, but...
and it's sad, dude, because that was like a really good role that I think he should have held on to.
Yeah, I think it would have been something good, and it was something to build on, and yeah, man. But Ezra Miller kind of fucked it all up. I mean, the man himself, he R. Kelly'd himself out of that situation. So, I mean, what can you do? But George, look at George. He's like, I like that theory. I think it's a good theory, man. I think Ezra Miller being like a villain of another universe and him coming in and admitting that he's really Barry Allen and not Ezra Miller in real life would be even better. Dude, you didn't see all the weird shit that he was saying? He was saying that him and that girl he like kidnapped and like groomed were like gods and they needed to have the Antichrist. And dude, the guy is he's living in the 300th. He's Kang the Conqueror in the DC universe to me now, dude.
He's all over the place, dude, and then stealing liquor, breaking in and having people hostage.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy, man. Ezra Miller as Captain Cold, more like Captain Prison, man. More like Captain Please Stop Him. What were you gonna say?
I said he's just has no accountability, man, and you would think, I mean, a lot of that just went to his head.
Yeah, pretty much. Sal, what else are you looking forward to? What about Quantumania? What about Ant-Man? What are the things you're looking forward to the next phases now that we are out of phase 4?
Honestly, my main one that I'm like, just if I can get to see this, I'll be good. As always, Deadpool. I mean,
okay,
that's who I'm that's my biggest one to watch.
Okay.
Quantumania is good. It's I like Paul Rudd. I didn't think he was gonna do that well in the
original,
but he actually knocked it out of the park, and I like him as Ant-Man.
Now, from what I've heard, Deadpool 3 is going to be part of phase 6. So we still need like maybe like another year and a half, maybe. But yeah, man, Deadpool 3 is probably one of the most. I think the next heavy hitting film is probably going to be Deadpool 3. Like, I think that's going to be the next $1 billion film.
I hope so. And believe it or not, I'm looking forward to the Spider-Verse. But the cartoon
that's a
version.
Sony franchise, though, right? Like, I think the Spider-Verse, the original one, did fairly well. It did extremely fucking well. Yeah, I would say like I'm excited for part 2. I think the animation and the story and the soundtrack, like it hit in so many different levels. I think that's like the pinnacle of what Disney needs to realize, that there's money to be made in the animated series just as much as the regular films, and you can make it into a full-length feature film. Like that did amazing, and we got a couple of them. If I'm not mistaken, the Spider-Verse is going to be broken up into 2 films, and we just got confirmation today that if you go to like John Campia's site, or if you go to like Comic Cast or Comic Book something on YouTube, what's the name of that channel? Library. Let me go to this real quick. Oh, well, I'll check it out later. Comic Cast, they're another popular, they give a lot of information on comic books coming up. They were talking about the Silk Squadron, or the Silk Squad, which is like they're bringing in Silk into the Sony universe. They're going to be bringing a bunch of characters that are going to be alongside of her, and they're going to be doing like a live action variation of the Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay.
So that's something to really look forward to. Also, of course, Sony's been kind of like a little bit weird about what they're doing. We have, of course, Kraven the Hunter, that's like an animal activist and vegan, and it already like threw me away of even wanting to watch it, because he is not that in the fucking comics. The dude literally hunts for a living. His name is literally the Hunter. You're going to say that he's a fucking animal activist? Come on, man.
Blake's
I think
the only
really
one.
Cool when they start breaking into the Spider-Verse. I think it was really cool in No Way Home that they were able to pull off Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. My major theory is that the MCU version of Peter Parker, which is Tom Holland, I think that's the ultimate version of the comics, and that's where we're going to have Miles Morales in. Then Andrew Garfield is going to be the actual real Peter Parker.
You think so?
Yeah. And then Tobey Maguire is going to be the pillar, the sacrifice that Morloon's going to get and kill.
Wow.
That's what I think was going to happen, because if you really break it down, that's what it is. Like, Andrew Garfield's Tobey Maguire, or Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker, is the most that's ideal to the age that Peter Parker would be if Miles Morales was in the universe. The Tom Holland Peter Parker is perfect. Like, he's perfect if you think about it. He's never met any of the villains that he met if it wasn't for the multiverse, but he knows every one of them and no one knows who he is.
Yeah.
So like literally if anyone in the MCU is like, oh, hey, look, an Osborn, like he 100% knows that motherfucker is going to be Green Goblin. He 100% knows who's going to be Doc Ock. He 100% knows who's going to be the Shocker, fucking Sandman. He knows all of them by name and they don't even know he exists. So like he's going to be the dude and he knows all the Avengers. He knows who fucking Thanos was. Like in essence, he's the perfect Spider-Man. The perfect Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield just went back home. No Doctor Strange made anybody forget who he was or nothing. And he remembers everybody and his Gwen Stacy's dead. We don't even have a Gwen. Tom Holland doesn't even have a Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But you know who does? Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think probably they're going to have one more trilogy for Spider-Man for Tom Holland's. And I think that the animated series that they're going to bring out is going to be one part of the trilogy. And then it's going to be the other one where he's living life, getting into college, tries to make life with MJ, but he's going to be introduced to a young Miles Morales. I think he's the one that creates Miles Morales and makes the spider and does all that stuff. And Miles Morales is going to be in that universe. I think that's what happens. And then he'll be here
I hope so.
That'd be cool. I don't think he'll be here for Secret Wars, though, or whatever the fuck they're going to name it. Kang Dynasty or, yeah, what Battle World or whatever the fuck they call it. I don't think he's going to be here for that, though. But yeah, for Phase 5, let me see. What I would say I'm excited for Captain America New World Order.
Which one?
Captain America New World Order.
That one's interesting.
Why? What's up? What do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, because it kind of just continues right where Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of left off, you know. Somewhat. And he's well, you still have Sam Wilson as Captain America, but I guess this is where he comes out as like, I'm embracing the role. Like he kind of said it at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and this is where he, I guess, comes out and shows it, you know. And we get a new Falcon. I don't know, is the Winter Soldier coming out in this one too?
Oh, in the New World, guarantee, man. He'll be in, of course, Thunderbolts. I think we saw it earlier that him and Yelena Belovovich will have some type of intimate relationship, which I think is very weird because he's like 80 and she's like 15. But yeah, they'll have something. And he dated Black Widow also in the fucking comic books back in the day, and she even mentions it in fucking Civil War, but that's nor here or there.
Yeah.
Or no, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. She's like, don't she even remember me or whatever the fuck when she has him in a fucking chokehold? Like, don't I even look familiar? And then they start fighting, but they never even cascade on that. But okay, so hear me out, and anybody that's in the comment section, I know we have a little bit of people still watching. Thank you guys so much for tuning in still. We had a fucking crazy YouTube jump a little while ago. We had a lot of people watching, but so here is my thoughts on the New World Order. So when Captain America at the end of Infinity War, he goes back in time and goes and returns the stones and then comes back and he's like the old Steve Rogers, right?
Yeah.
But the problem isn't that. The problem is all the shit that happened when they did the time heist in the first place, which is like how they fucked with the timeline completely. Right? So if you go back to that, you go back all the way to they go to the first time that in the Infinity Avengers movie, right? So they go back, they lose the Tesseract, Loki takes it, which does not happen in the original Avengers movie. So right then and there is the part where that world is not the same universe that they were in. And then the second part is when they're in that world, Captain America fights Captain America. Right?
Yeah.
In that situation, what happens also is Captain America then goes to a group of dudes in an elevator who jumped his ass in his movie. But instead of him fighting them, he just says, "Hail Hydra." And they're all like, "Oh, fuck, Captain America's a Hydra agent."
Yeah.
Right? He fights himself, and then he hits that old version of himself with the scepter. which makes him completely no more soulless, able to be controlled and manipulated, kind of like the Men in Black little blinky thing.
Yeah.
But right before he fights himself, he messages the team that's in the elevator and says, I have Loki. So what's going to happen, in my opinion, is those guys from the elevator find an unconscious, touched by the scepter Captain America, and they're going to take him to be healed by a Hydra character that's going to tell him he's a Hydra agent. And then that Captain America then becomes Captain Hydra, which is not the same Captain America that went back in time, which means when it comes to the Infinity War saga and all that stuff, he's going to come back and he's going to be young Captain America still.
Yeah.
So he's going to go reset the time stones and then return and not be old in this new timeline. So one, you have old Captain America still alive who's living on the moon. And that's why everybody's like, dude, didn't Captain America go to the moon or something? I don't know if you remember this in the Captain America story where everybody kept mentioning that.
No.
Okay, so in the story of that, every time they mentioned Captain America, I thought he's on the moon. They're always mentioning that he's on the moon, which is like a theory. But that also coincides with the Winter Soldier story called the Man on the Wall, which is where Nick Fury in Original Sin
becomes the Man on the Wall.
Was based on the moon, which is where the old Captain America is, which in that story is the old Nick Fury. The old white Nick Fury, not Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury, who's like the stepson of the white Nick Fury back in the day, Nick Fury.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a young Captain America that's still around. So my theory is young Captain America being there is going to imply the whole Captain Hydra story. They're bringing in the leader from the Edward Norton Hulk movie. He's going to reprise his role as the leader, that actor.
Oh, that's right. And
they're going to bring back Eric Selvig. They're going to do Korvac. They're going to do a bunch of stuff that's going to be based on the Captain America movie. But instead of it being like in the comics where it's young Captain America, that's the Hydra agent, versus old Captain America, which is the Ideals, it's going to be Captain America Hydra versus Sam Wilson's Captain America. And then young and then old Captain America will come back and they'll probably kill him or they'll do something because U.S. agents there or whatnot. But what's going to happen is at the end, Bucky, who's one of the only characters left from the original team, just like Falcon, is going to then be the Man on the Wall who will be in the moon with Captain Rogers. He'll be off planet. Because they don't know what to do with Bucky anymore. What do you do with Bucky?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do with him? You're going to keep putting in Black Widow films? Nobody wants to see that shit. Black Widow, nobody even wants to watch anymore. So they're going to put him in space and he's going to defend the planet up there. I was originally thinking they were going to do an Original Sin that the Steve Rogers, since he was sent back in time, like he got to see the original, like the origin story of all of these characters come together. And he just realized that they were all fucking greedy and they just wanted power. Like they were going to be like, well, Tony Stark, you're a piece of shit. Like even when you made that shit for your chest, like you're still a piece of shit. You let that Indian guy die or the Iranian guy die in the cave. You know, you fucking made millions of dollars off your stuff and you're a warmonger. Like he just kind of realized like all of these people are just trash and he just wants to take them all out like Original Sin.
Yeah.
But I think Original Sin would be a very hard series to pull off. But I think the Captain Hydra story would be very interesting because it sets up very well at the ending of Infinity War.
You know, it's odd. I really like that storyline.
I did too. I don't know why people hated it. That's fucking wild, man.
Well, because Captain America, I mean, he's supposed to hold the ideals of America and be, but I'm all like,
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, but a little piece of me was like, this. I mean, this is the flip side.
Yeah, what do you do? Like okay, this goes back to what I said about Thor earlier, and I say this constantly. What was Captain America doing before that was making you interested in his book?
Yeah.
Like, what was his story before that? Nobody gave a shit about him. He was just Captain America. He's just going around wearing some fucking flag costume, throwing shields, beating up Nazis. Like, it's just what he does. It's just what he does. What was he doing? He wasn't doing anything. Thor, he's just going around swinging a hammer, beating up giants, and fucking fighting some folkloric shit. Hey, what is he doing? He ain't doing nothing. He was doing what was comfortable, which is you put this character in a comfortable position and you let them keep doing it over and over again. But what happens is it becomes boring. It becomes simple. You have to throw like the weirdest curveball to make it interesting. When Captain America came out in that comic book and said "Hail Hydra," CNN reported that bitch.
Yeah.
CNN reported that bitch. Comic people weren't complaining. We were, but we were complaining. But CNN, Fox News, fucking MSNBC, they covered the fact that fucking Captain America was now a Hydra agent. It flipped everyone the fuck out. That is the importance of that story, is that it caused a reaction. And it wasn't like a shock. It wasn't a shock value style comic. It was written kind of intelligently.
And believe it or not, dude, he had valid points.
Yep.
You know, and the whole story.
He lifted the fucking hammer of Thor.
Yeah.
That was the greatest fucking panel ever, dude. I mean, the mighty Thor, Jane Foster. She's fighting with, I forgot who she was fighting with, and he punches them. Someone punches her, and she drops the fucking hammer. And he starts like going off and being like, look, I don't want to be a bad guy. Like, I just want to make things right. Like, I just want to make sure that you understand that we want to take care of you. Just like socialist shit, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he goes, if you think I'm so wrong and I'm the villain, why can I do this? And he just grabs a hammer and picks it up. And everyone's like, we need a lunch break. Like they're in the middle of fighting each other. They just stop. They literally just stop. Everyone's just flabbergasted. Fucking Jane Foster's like, he has my Thor. He has my hammer. What do I do? Like, that's literally my fucking meat and potatoes. Like, you know what I mean? And he's so good and powerful that when he changes, he doesn't literally become Thor like she does. He keeps his fucking costume. You know what I mean? He keeps his whole goddamn image. He's still Captain America with Thor's hammer, where Jane Foster picks up the hammer and she's like, oh, I'm Thor. Like, oh, I'm fucking Thor. And it's like, that doesn't happen to this dude because he's that fucking cool. Like, he doesn't have to take someone else's image. Like, it's so fucking wild, man. It's so good. I think to me, the New World Order, I just, man, the story title is so wild. I can't believe they went with that. But again, the New World Order film for Captain America is probably going to be one of my most anticipated films. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did a rendition of Hydra being like they took over the world, which is, I think, like season 5, which to me is a masterpiece, dude. Like, it was a great series. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. story.
I got to go back and watch it. I think I got up to like season 2, and then I kind of lost track.
Season 4 or season 5, they introduced like, but it's like a simulation. They're in like a computer program created by this guy, and they introduce a world that feels super real, and it's all Hydra based. And then it's one of the most coolest season finales, dude, the way that they write it out. It's super, super good. You guys should check it out. Sal, is there anything else you want to cover before we bounce out and call it a night?
No. I think we covered everything pretty well, man. I mean, we couldn't cover Blade. There's really nothing there to cover with Blade yet.
Yeah, like for what it's worth, Blade is still very loosely talked about. I know they had a lot of problems. They fired the director. They're looking for new writers. And the last thing that I heard is Mahershala Ali, the actor that's playing Blade, is like super disappointed in how Marvel is handling this story and the situation. Yeah. So like, let's hope they fix it because Mahershala Ali is a good actor, man.
Yeah, and I think he did good in the role.
Sal, I have to say thank you for coming on the show. It's always such a pleasure to have you on, and I love our discussions and everything that you bring to the table when it comes to your talking points. Give us any type of shout outs that you need to say before you head out. Where can we find you? If anybody is interested in your barbecue thing that you're going to be doing, where can we find you, bud?
Hopefully here within the next 2 weeks at A to Z in Far, right off of Ferguson. Ooh. That's, you'll see us there. It should be like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, within those days from 3 o'clock on up.
Excellent. Shout out to David Alanis for A to Z drinks, man. A to Z, what's the store called? A to Z what? Liquor.
A to Z Liquors.
Yeah, man. Shout out to David out there, man,
Yeah.
doing his thing. Sal, like I said, I want to thank you for being on the show. I super appreciate you coming in the seat and jumping in. Brian, we miss you. We hope you're doing good, and we hope that you're able to take care of stuff. Sal, anytime we have you on the show, you're always invited. You're such a great dude, and you have so much knowledge. If you do get the opportunity to go see Wakanda Forever, I hope you enjoy it. Message me. I know you probably will. Let me know what you think about it. And I hope you're doing good, man. Thank you so much for jumping in with us.
You too. Thank you for having me, dude. I mean, it's I love talking comics, and
Yeah.
hopefully the people that were on enjoyed it. And if you ever need me again, I'm always available.
Hell yeah. Man, I got to thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much in the comment sections for everybody that tuned in today. We appreciate you. To all our extraordinary listeners and our friends that are always supporting us, thank you guys so much. We hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys again next Friday here on the Average Boys Podcast. Peace.
Thank you.